that Tsundere goddess falls in love with me. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Regretful Thanking. This sudden scene startled everyone. The third master looked at the third master and yelled, "Are you crazy? He asked you to chop off this guy's head, not his." The third master smiled and said, "Really? I'm sorry, I heard it wrong." The third master was speechless and was about to explode, but soon he realized something was wrong. He then expanded his domain to the extreme, looked at the third master with a vigilant face, and shouted, "Who are you?" The third master's appearance began to change, and soon he turned into a determined young man. It was Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan smiled at the third master and said, "Of course, I'm here to punish you beasts." Su Ming was excited and exclaimed, "Big brother, I knew you would never abandon us." Cheng Xiao was stunned. She never thought that Lu Chuan had the ability to change his appearance. She was very sure that this was not a disguise, because Lu Chuan, who became the third master, even changed his height and appearance. This was not something that a disguise could do. This is simply a magic. Thanking was stunned and said, Isn't he dead? How come he suddenly appeared here again?" The third master was furious and roared, "Just you? Dream on." He used all his strength to attack Lu Chuan. The whole wooden house was blown away, exposing everyone in the mountains and forests. But, so scary, this Lu Chuan will definitely be beaten to death. He is such a fool. Since there is a chance to escape, why doesn't he ask the official to rescue us? He has to show off his strength. I'm bullied by so many people because of this fool. Thanking looked at Lu Chuan with resentment, hoping that the third boss would let Lu Chuan die miserably so that she can vent her resentment. But Lu Chuan raised his hand lightly, easily grabbed the fist of the third boss, and then kicked the third boss in the stomach, kicking him out. Lu Chuan is now in the 5th level of the Golden Core, and the third boss is only in the 4th level of the Mysterious Realm. How could he be his opponent? Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the always majestic third boss would be so vulnerable in front of this seemingly inconspicuous young man. Cheng Xiao was shocked and murmured, "So brother Lu Chuan is so powerful, no wonder brother Su Ming recognized him as his brother." Thanking looked incredulous. "This is impossible. How can he be so powerful? If he is so powerful, we will definitely be saved today, but in this case, I will be abused by those people in vain." Thinking of this, she felt very uncomfortable and even had some resentment towards Lu Chuan. The third boss fell to the ground, gritted his teeth, and looked at Lu Chuan, knowing that he was no match for this guy, and then shouted loudly, "Everyone listen. This guy trespassed into our territory, and we must not tolerate him. Everyone, come together and kill him." The people who were still unaware immediately set their eyes on Lu Chuan, and then quickly picked up their weapons, and besieged Lu Chuan. "You are powerful, but you can't handle our large numbers. I don't believe you can catch up with me when you are dragged by so many people. I will go to my elder brother and second brother now. When the time comes, we will join forces and see if you dare to be so arrogant." The third boss cursed inwardly and turned to flee quickly. Su Ming pulled out the dagger stuck in his stomach, stopped the bleeding, approached Lu Chuan and said, "Brother, there are too many of them. I'm afraid we can't handle it." Thanking showed a sneer on her face and muttered, "It's better if we can't handle it. It's better if you are all killed. Anyway, I have gained their trust by selling my body. I will definitely not die by then. At most, I will sleep with them a few more times." Lu Chuan smiled slightly and said, "See clearly, I only concealed it once. What should I do when facing multiple sieges?" As soon as the voice fell, a jade gourd appeared in his hand, which was the sword raising gourd. 3 cold rays flew out of the sword raising gourd and swept across the people who were besieging them. Those people just felt a chill in their heads, and then they lost consciousness and fell to the ground. The 3 flying swords pierced through the brows of these human traffickers indiscriminately, just like harvesting garbage. In just a few breaths, the entire human trafficker organization was slaughtered. Su Ming, Cheng Xiao and Thanking were all stunned. Soon, Lu Chuan put the 3 flying swords back into the sword raising gourd and said with a smile, "Done." Fan King walked over angrily and yelled at Lu Chuan, "You shameless guy, since you are so powerful, why didn't you say it earlier? It's all because of you that I was ruined by that bunch of dirty and smelly men. You must be responsible for me." Lu Chuan glanced at her and said, "You volunteered at the time. What does this have to do with me? And when they were doing it, I heard that you seemed to enjoy it. If you had resisted, I might have taken action." Fan King was dumbfounded. How could she know that the third brother was Lu Chuan, and this guy was so powerful? She gritted her teeth and said, "How would I know if you didn't tell me?" Lu Chuan pointed at Cheng Xin'ao and said, she didn't know either, but she finally chose to fight against these criminals instead of compromising, or even betraying her friends. Fan King was instantly ashamed, and had no face to refute. She turned her head to look at Cheng Xin'ao, and said aggrievedly, "Yao, the situation was urgent at that time, I didn't mean it." Cheng Xin'ao's face was cold, and she said, "Don't explain to me, we are no longer friends in the future." Fan King looked depressed, and looked at Lu Chuan again, with a trace of resentment in her eyes. She felt that all this was caused by Lu Chuan. If this guy had taken action earlier, how could she betray her friend to save her life? Su Ming didn't care about these. He was still in shock from Lu Chuan's use of the sword raising gourd just now. "Brother is really amazing. I don't know when I can master the same method as him. I'm afraid it will never be possible in this life." Just as he was muttering to himself, Lu Chuan threw the sword raising gourd into his hand. "Take this gourd. Originally, it could only be controlled by spiritual consciousness, but I made some modifications to it. You only need to inject power into the small formation on the gourd to control the flying sword in the gourd. I deliberately let the third boss run away. I left a mark on him. If I'm not mistaken, he must have gone to find the other 2 bosses. The kidnapped people must have been locked up there. I will go to settle accounts with them now, and save people by the way. You wait for my news here." Su Ming stared at the gourd in his hand in a daze. "Brother, this gourd." Lu Chuan smiled slightly. "This gourd is no longer of much use to me. Just take it as a reward for you protecting my sister-in-law and Yi." After that, he turned around and chased the third boss. Su Ming's eyes were filled with tears. He held the gourd tightly in his hand and vowed to follow Lu Chuan loyally, no matter what happened. Chapter 302, 1 vs 3. The third boss ran deep into the forest and soon came to a hidden cave. This cave was where they kept the 2-legged sheep they had captured, and it was also where they stored the precious medicinal materials they had traded. Only the 3 bosses knew the location of this place. That kid must have been held back by the people below, and he will definitely not be able to get away for a while. I will call my eldest and second brothers to fight back and catch this kid off guard. The third boss walked towards the cave with an angry face. Then your plan may fail. At this time, a voice sounded faintly behind the third boss. The third boss's face changed. When he saw that it was Lu Chuan, he cursed. How could this be possible? You are being harassed by so many people. How could you follow me here? Lu Chuan smiled and said, it's very simple. I just kill all those people. The third boss's face was solemn. After shooting a force at Lu Chuan, he retreated quickly and shouted, brother, come out quickly. We are in trouble. 2 figures rushed out of the cave. They were the first and second bosses. The first boss stared at Lu Chuan and asked, third brother, what's wrong with this kid? The third boss gritted his teeth and said, this guy colluded with others to sneak into our place to save people. He is a tough guy. Many of our brothers may have died in his hands. We must not let him go. No one from the supervisory department dares to come here easily. You are so brave that you dare to run over and act wild. Let me see where you get the confidence from. The second boss shouted and rushed directly towards Lu Chuan. After Lu Chuan exchanged a few moves with him, he discovered that this man was actually a master of the 5th level of the Profound Realm. The second in command retreated to the back with a look of surprise on his face and said, this kid actually has the strength of the 5th level of the Profound Realm. The first in command showed a look of surprise on his face, and after a moment of silence, he said, little brother, we have no grudge against you. It may be a misunderstanding that we captured the people around you. We have no intention of making enemies with you. Tell me who you want to save, and I will return the person to you, and give you some compensation. Don't interfere in our business, how about it? Lu Chuan curled his lips and said, what I can't stand most in my life is you inhuman beasts. I will definitely save people, but you, I will never let you go. The first in command's face sank, and he said to the two people next to him, this person has such strength at such a young age. I'm afraid he is not simple. Since he refuses to accept our conditions, we can only kill him to prevent future troubles. Let's go together. Don't give him any chance to survive. The second in command and the third in command nodded, and then followed the first in command to besiege Lu Chuan. The big boss is also a master of the 5th level of the mysterious realm. 2 masters of the 5th level of the mysterious realm plus 1 master of the 4th level of the mysterious realm besieged Lu Chuan at the same time. For Lu Chuan at the moment, the pressure is still a bit great. But fortunately, he has the Xuanhuang immortal body. Even if he can't resist the attacks of 3 people in time, he will not suffer any serious injuries. At the same time, on a big tree not far from here, a man in a black robe is watching the battle closely. This person is a member of the law enforcers, codenamed Owl. Because the big boss and his business is to traffic domestic people overseas, they have been targeted by the law enforcers early. This organization is also notorious overseas, and has always been a thorn in the eyes of the law enforcers. The law enforcers spend huge financial and human resources to find some clues about this organization. Owl came here to investigate the situation. He just found the nest of this organization, and passed the news to his companions. He turned his head, and saw Lu Chuan pop up, and challenge the 3 bosses alone. Feeling the power fluctuations from the battle over there, Owl's face changed. The first and second boss are both at the 5th level of the mysterious realm. The third boss is also at the 4th level of the mysterious realm. The intelligence we got is wrong. These 3 are so powerful, no wonder the supervisory department has been unable to deal with them. This mission has obviously risen to the level of A-level characters, but we are a B-level team. That kid actually wants to challenge the 3 bosses alone, isn't he looking for death? Owl stared at the battle over there, and was extremely entangled in his heart, wondering whether to help. I only have the strength of the 1st level of the mysterious realm, and I will die if I go up, and even if all the members of our team come, they will never be the opponents of these 3 people. I'd better evacuate quickly and inform the captain that the intelligence is wrong. Let them retreat first. The standard configuration of a B-level team is 1/3 level of the mysterious realm, 2 second levels of the mysterious realm, and 4 first levels of the mysterious realm. Obviously, such a team cannot compete with 2 5th levels of the mysterious realm and 1 4th level of the mysterious realm. Thinking of this, Owl was about to leave immediately. At this moment, an extremely powerful sword energy suddenly appeared in front of the cave, which shocked his heart. He turned his head quickly and saw that a long sword with infinite power appeared in Lu Chuan's hand at some point, which made his momentum rise, and he was not weaker than the 3 heads of the family. How is this possible? Owl looked at the situation over there in disbelief and gave up the idea of evacuating. Lu Chuan was holding the King Jiao sword, surrounded by the phantom of the King Jiao, and he was not afraid to fight against the 3 heads of the family. The head frowned at Lu Chuan and said, I didn't expect you to have such a magic weapon in your hand. No wonder you dare to come to us alone. But don't think that the 3 of us brothers are easy to bully. Many years ago, the 3 of us got a heavenly martial arts that can be performed together. Even if you have magic weapon, you can never stop our joint martial arts. After that, the 3 of them began to seal with their hands. Seeing this, Lu Chuan did not dare to neglect it, and began to inject power into the King Jiao sword. The owl in the distance watched the 3 people perform the joint martial arts, and his expression changed drastically. It's actually a joint martial arts. And it's a heavenly level. This kid will definitely die. The 3 big bosses were surrounded by bursts of light, and then the power of the 3 merged into one, forming a beam of light, shooting towards Lu Chuan. The sky is falling, and the earth is cracking. For a moment, the entire forest began to tremble, and there was really a scene of the sky falling, and the earth cracking. The owl shook his head helplessly and murmured, forget it, I can't save him anyway, let's evacuate first. At this time, Lu Chuan also performed the green lotus sword art to resist the beam of light. long rainbow piercing the sun. The owl was a little surprised. Huh. This kid also has a heavenly level martial arts. But the power of his martial arts is obviously not as good as the opponent's joint martial arts. The next second, Lu Chuan performed 2 more moves. Sword rain like flowers. Sword falling like a startling swan. After 3 consecutive moves, he finally resisted the beam of light. Owl was dumbfounded and gave up the idea of evacuating again. How come his heaven level martial arts has a combo? Chapter 303 Harvest. The first, second, and third bosses were all surprised. They had never expected that Lu Chuan could perform a move that could compete with their combined martial arts. How could this kid be so strong? He actually performed 3 moves of heaven level martial arts in succession. This is even more terrifying than our combined martial arts. The second boss exclaimed. This combined martial arts is already our strongest move. If this move can't do anything to him, then we are done for, right? The third boss looked solemn. The first boss snorted coldly, we can't do anything to him, and he can't do anything to us either. He looked at Lu Chuan and gritted his teeth and said, boy, if we continue to fight like this, the result will only be a loss for both sides. Why don't we each take a step back and sit down and have a good chat? Lu Chuan glanced at the first boss, made a hushing gesture, and said, don't talk, it will affect my seal. He let go of the green dragon sword. Because of the existence of the green dragon spirit, the sword floated in the air on its own, maintaining the power of the green lotus sword art. Lu Chuan quickly formed hand seals with his hands, and then he shouted softly. A shadow of the seal appeared in the air and smashed towards the 3 people of the big boss. The heaven flipping seal. The big boss's face changed wildly, and he exclaimed, how the hell is this possible? Why do you still have a heaven level martial arts? The second and third bosses were even more dumbfounded. The heaven level martial arts consume a lot of strength. They have never seen anyone who can perform so many heaven level martial arts in succession in their lives. Moreover, they can only watch the heaven flipping seal smashing towards them. Once they divide their strength to resist, their joint martial arts will be instantly broken by the green lotus sword art. No matter what the situation is, they will die today. I'm not willing to accept this. The big boss roared. The next second, the heaven flipping seal smashed on him. Boom. The light column formed by the joint martial arts collapsed, and the giant longsword shadow smashed down. Bang. The location where the 3 bosses were located exploded directly, rolling up dust. The whole mountain shook violently for a long time before slowly calming down. After a long time, the smoke and dust dissipated. A hideous and terrifying pit appeared in his field of vision. The first, second, and third bosses fell in the pit with their legs spread out, their flesh and blood blurred, their eyes bulging out, and they died with their eyes open. Seeing that the 3 people were dead, Lu Chuan was quietly relieved and put away the King Jiao sword. He cast a spell to burn the bodies of the 3 people to prevent any accidents, and then walked into the cave. The owl, who had been watching the battle from a distance, was dumbfounded at this moment, and the shock in his heart could no longer be expressed in words. We, the law enforcers, have been tracking the human traffickers for 3 years, and have invested endless manpower and material resources, but we still haven't been able to get rid of them. He actually solved it by himself. There are 2 people in the 5th level of the mysterious realm, and 1 in the 4th level of the mysterious realm. He fought 1 against 3, and killed them all. The most important thing is that he looks only in his 20s. He is simply a monster among monsters. In the cave, Lu Chuan expanded his spiritual sense and observed the situation. Not long after, his eyes suddenly glowed, and then he quickened his pace and came to a place that was arranged like a house. This should be the place where the 3 big bosses usually rest. Lu Chuan went straight to a table and saw that it was full of various rare medicinal herbs, none of which were less than 50 years old. He counted carefully and found that there were 5 200-year-old medicinal herbs, 16 100-year-old medicinal herbs, and 37 50-year-old medicinal herbs. And in the brocade box right in front of the table, there was actually a 300-year-old medicinal herb. Medicinal materials that can grow safely for 300 years and withstand the baptism of time without dying are already considered to be spiritual medicines. This 300-year-old spiritual medicine is worth as much as some spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. I'm really rich now. With so many medicinal materials, I wonder how many pills I can refine. Lu Chuan thought happily. At this time, a light cough sounded. Ahem. I only need that 300-year-old spiritual medicine and 3 200-year-old medicinal materials. Put them in the storage space quickly. Lu Chuan's expression suddenly froze, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He felt as if he had just won the lottery, and had to give it away. However, he promised the tower spirit to help it find medicinal materials for recovery, so naturally he would not break his promise. He turned his hand and put all the medicinal materials into the demon suppressing tower. Absorb as much as you want. Don't be polite to me. After all, without you, I might even die. The tower spirit was moved. Really? Then I won't be polite. I suddenly feel that you are a good person. Lu Chuan's expression froze, and he roared in his heart, I'm just being polite to you. Can't you hear it? He didn't know what to say. After laughing twice, he searched here for a while, and after confirming that there was nothing valuable, he continued to walk deeper into the cave. Not long after, he saw an iron gate, and dozens of panicked young people were locked in the gate, both men and women, who seemed to be college students. When these people saw the stranger Lu Chuan appear, they immediately hid in the corner with fear on their faces. Seeing them like this, Lu Chuan comforted them. Don't be afraid, I'm here to save you. I have already dealt with those human traffickers. You will be fine. When everyone heard Lu Chuan's words, their eyes lit up. Lu Chuan added, but before I take you away, I need to confirm whether there is a person named Tsundere here. I was entrusted by her brother Suming to rescue people. In the crowd, a weak and beautiful girl raised her hand. I'm Tsundere. Lu Chuan looked over and found that the girl did look a bit like Suming. He used his spiritual sense to check the other person's condition. After confirming that nothing was wrong, he smiled and used his bare hands to pry open the iron gate to a gap for people to pass through. Let's go. Your brother is still waiting for you outside. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Lu Chuan's way of opening the door to be so barbaric. Tsundere's face was full of emotion. The fact that the other party could say the name Suming had already dispelled her doubts. She hurried out and followed Lu Chuan out of the cave. Seeing this, everyone followed him. Lu Chuan led everyone to where Suming and his friends were. After Tsundere saw Suming, she flew directly into his arms. Brother. Suming breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that his sister was safe and sound, and said with tears in his eyes, Tsundere, I'm glad you're okay. I was so worried. The others looked at the bodies all over the ground with shock on their faces, but this also made them realize that they really escaped, and many people couldn't help crying. Without hesitation, Lu Chuan drove the bus parked nearby that was specially used to transport people, let everyone get on the bus, and drove away. Not long after they left, the law enforcer B-level task force arrived here. The captain of the team in charge of this operation was Beihu, a talented beauty who has recently become famous among the law enforcers. Chapter 304 Shocked White Tiger. Beihu was dressed in a black robe, walking lightly through the mountains and forests. Following behind her were all the members of the team. Since she brought Lu Chuan back to the headquarters last time, she felt a great sense of accomplishment, so she devoted herself to improving her strength to better protect the order of this world. Now she has successfully broken through to the 3rd level of the Zuan realm, and became the youngest captain of a B-level team in the history of law enforcers. At the beginning, she thought that Lu Chuan was a rare genius who could threaten her. After all, those who could reach the Zuan realm at this age were rare. But since Lu Chuan was captured by her and suffered all kinds of torture from the law enforcers, this guy has become a coward who can only beg for mercy, and naturally became a joke in her eyes. When we were in the island country, I felt that Lu Chuan had the temperament of a local tyrant. He ignored the rules of the law enforcers and only wanted to be honest with himself. But after he was captured and taken back to the law enforcers headquarters, he became a coward who only knew how to beg people to let him go. Now I have even broken through to the 3rd level of the mysterious realm. That guy will never be worthy of my attention. The group quickly came to the location of the intelligence provided by the owl. Beihu blew a whistle. The owl jumped down from the tree. Captain. Behu glanced at the owl and asked, "What's the situation?" The owl said, "Captain, our intelligence is wrong. 2 of the 3 leaders of this human trafficker organization are at the 5th level of the mysterious realm, and the other is also at the 4th level of the mysterious realm. This is not something that our B-level team can handle at all." Behu's face changed, and his expression instantly became solemn. He immediately ordered everyone enter combat mode immediately. The whole team tensed up at once. White Tiger looked at Owl in reproach and said, "Since the intelligence was wrong, why didn't you notify us in advance and let us run here? With so many of us, we must have attracted the attention of the 5th level masters of the mysterious realm. Once they take action, our team will be finished this time." Owl quickly said, "Captain, don't be nervous. I haven't finished yet. Although the 3 leaders of this human trafficker organization are very strong and far beyond our expectations, they are all dead, so we are safe now and there is no need for everyone to enter a combat state." Everyone was shocked. White Tiger was a little unbelievable. "What did you say? All 3 of them are dead?" Owl nodded. "Yes, I saw them 3 being beaten to death with my own eyes." White Tiger took a breath of cold air. 2 5th level masters of the mysterious realm and 1 4th level master of the mysterious realm were actually beaten to death. Even if this kind of thing is placed in the files of law enforcers, it is a very explosive existence. Did the supervision department send out the soul hunting team? The soul hunting team is an elite team trained within the supervision department, specializing in dealing with some more difficult problems, roughly equivalent to the A-level team of law enforcers. Owl said, "It's not the supervisory department. Only one person solved this human trafficker organization." White Tiger's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "1 person? Don't be ridiculous, okay? How can 1 person kill 2 5th level zoo and realm masters, and 1 4th level zoo and realm master alone? Could it be that the one who did it is a 7th level zoo and realm master? How could a person of this level intervene in such a trivial matter as human traffickers?" Owl explained that person's realm should also be at the 5th level of zoo and realm. "Although I know it sounds incredible, it is the fact, and I recorded the process with our equipment. You will know after watching it." He took down a device specially used for video recording and turned it on for playback. White Tiger took it quickly, but the video he saw was very blurry. Owl said awkwardly, "The battle was too horrific, and the camera was damaged by the battle fluctuations, but it can still be seen roughly. In the picture, a figure holding a sword fought against the 3 heads of the human trafficker organization. Both sides used their methods and the momentum was huge. Behu was at least at the 3rd level of the profound realm. Even though the scene was blurry, she could tell how fierce the battle was. Especially after seeing the sword-wielding figure perform heaven-level martial arts one after another, she was completely shocked. There is such a terrifying person in this world." Owl said with a smile, "Captain, this person is not only powerful, but also young. He is about the same age as you." Behu was struck by lightning. "He is about the same age as me. He is already at the 5th level of the profound realm and can even fight 3 people alone. But I'm still complacent about breaking through to the 3rd level of the profound realm." She immediately began to doubt her life. Owl sensed that the atmosphere was not right and quickly said, "Captain, did I hit your confidence? Sorry, I didn't mean to." "Captain, you are also very powerful, but this guy's too evil." Behu asked, "Can this video be repaired? I want to know what this person looks like, and I want all his information." Owl was a little surprised and said, "Captain, what do you want his information for?" Behu smiled and said, "Of course, to get to know him. Over the years, she has been treated as a genius, so she is very proud and has always looked down on the men of the same age around her. Now there is finally a person who is stronger and more talented than her and is the same age as her. Naturally, she is very interested. Everyone has a psychological admiration for the strong, and she is no exception. Moreover, she is in her youth, but she has never been in a relationship because the men around her are not as good as her. Now there is finally a man who can match her, and of course she doesn't want to miss it." Owl said, "It can be repaired, but it will take some time." "Captain, I'm just asking you weakly. You want his information. Do you want to pursue him?" Behu immediately knocked Owl's head hard. "What nonsense are you talking about? I just want to get to know this kind of genius." Owl chuckled. Captain blushes every time he lies. It seems that I guessed right. Behu kicked Nantausen angrily. Gal quickly dodged and said with a smile, Captain, don't worry, I will definitely repair this video as soon as possible and help you find out the information of this person. Behu glared at him and said nothing. At this time, her mobile phone rang. It was a call from the headquarters. She quickly answered it. Behu, the Luchuan you caught just died. After confirmation, this person is just a beggar in Jiangbai province, China. Someone took away his body with witchcraft and transformed it into the appearance of Luchuan. You caught the wrong person. Behu's face changed. He didn't expect that the Luchuan he caught back was actually a fake. She hung up the phone and said angrily, damn it, I actually caught a fake and brought it back. This must have been deliberately arranged by that Luchuan. It just so happens that the human trafficking organization has been dealt with by that hero. In this case, our mission to sneak into China this time will be to capture Luchuan. I don't believe that this guy can get away with it this time. She took a look at the battle video in her hand and murmured, compared with this kind of chivalrous hero who punishes evil and promotes good, Luchuan is just a despicable villain. When I get to know this hero in the future, I must tell him how shameless Luchuan is. Chapter 305 Shameless Fanking. Speaking of which, the soul of Huangquan Patriarch who took over the body of the beggar was unlucky enough. After he pretended to be Luchuan and was caught by the law enforcers, he tried his best to explain to the law enforcers that he was not Luchuan. He just pretended to be Luchuan to play a prank. But the rope of the law enforcers had the effect of suppressing power, making it impossible for him to eliminate the spell that changed his appearance. After careful comparison, the law enforcers were very sure that this was Luchuan. After all, they didn't know the existence of cultivators and didn't know that there was a spell in the world that could make a person completely change into another person. So no matter how Huangquan Patriarch explained, they were unmoved. And because of his attitude of refusing to admit it, he was also punished by the law enforcers with the highest level and was shocked with 100,000 volts of voltage every day. Huangquan Patriarch was a great man in the nascent soul stage, but he was tortured by such a group of people who had not even set foot on the path of cultivation. At first, he planned to pretend to be Luchuan, create some trouble for Luchuan, and then set off to the island country so that this guy who took over the body in the quilt could be driven by his own body so as to find a way to break the seal. Therefore, he was reluctant to give up this soul, so he kept gritting his teeth and persisting. He was deliberate, relying on some spells, and accumulated some strength from the daily electric shocks. Finally, he successfully abandoned the beggar's body and turned into a soul again. He found himself trapped on an isolated island. With only the little power of his soul, he would definitely not be able to support him back to the inland. Therefore, he had to seize another person's body so that he had a chance to escape. His strength was getting weaker and weaker, so he could only find people with little strength and weak bodies to seize. But he searched the entire island and was shocked to find that the lowest strength on the island had reached the threshold of the Zuan realm, and even the chefs in the back kitchen were masters of the Zuan realm. This situation made him desperate, and he had no choice but to return to the beggar's body. After that, he continued to suffer every day. In the end, he despaired that his soul had no possibility of escape, so he could only commit suicide with hatred, and gave up this soul. BEN City. In an apartment next to the university, Fanking looked at Luchuan angrily and said, I don't care. You could have saved me, but you just watched that group of people ruin me. You must be responsible to me for this. Luchuan looked at her speechlessly and said, you were the one who betrayed your friend first, and you were completely voluntary in the process. I didn't see any resistance from you. Why should I save you? It's already been merciful of me to bring you back. Don't be unreasonable here. Fanking said with resentment on her face. If you told me in advance that you were so powerful and could kill all those bad guys, would I still be afraid to betray others? No matter what, you are responsible, and you must be responsible to me. Luchuan looked helpless and asked, how do you want me to be responsible for you? Fanking raised her head and said seriously, I want you to be my boyfriend. Luchuan glared and said with disgust on his face, sister, stop it. I don't want to be the scapegoat. Suming, Chengxin Iao and Suzirating on the side were also shocked by Fanking's idea. Chengxin Iao stepped forward and said, "Fanking, stop making trouble here. A treacherous person like you is not worthy of brother Luchuan." Suzirating also said angrily, "That's right. Fanking, we have decided that we want to break up with you. Don't come in front of us and get in our way again." On the way back, Chengxin Iao had told Suzirating about Fanking's actions. Suzirating also recognized Fanking's true face and did not intend to be friends with such a person anymore. Fanking walked to the sofa and sat down with a look of desperation, saying, "You think I'm an eyesore, so I'll just hang around in front of you. I just want to annoy you to death. Unless you let Luchuan be my boyfriend, none of you will have a good life." Chengxin Iao gritted her teeth. "I didn't expect you to be such a shameless person. Get out of here. You are not welcome here." Fanking said confidently, "I have lived here for so long, and I will leave, just because you ask me to. Why?" Suzirating took all of Fanking's things and threw them out of the door, saying angrily, "This apartment is rented by Yao Iao and I, and you haven't paid a penny. We used to treat you as a friend, so we didn't care about anything, but now that we know who you are, I don't want to stay in the same room with you for a second. Get out of here, or I'll call the police." Fanking leaned on the sofa with a dead pig's face and said, "I won't leave. If you have the guts, call the police to arrest me. Then I will say that you are ganging up to bully me." Suzirating and Chengxin Iao looked at each other. Obviously, they had no way to deal with such a shameless person. At this time, Luchuan came over. The momentum of the 5th level of the Golden Elixir realm unfolded, and he looked at Fanking coldly and said only 2 words, "Get out." Fanking felt like she was facing a demon from ancient times. The instinct in her body made her tremble. She didn't dare to continue making trouble here. She quickly got up from the sofa and ran out of the door. She picked up her things, looked at the people in the room with resentment, and said with gritted teeth, "Just wait. I became like this because of you. I must make you regret it." Then she ran away. Chengxin Iao and Suzirating breathed a sigh of relief. Suzirating looked at Luchuan, smiled shyly, and said, "Brother Luchuan, I'm really sorry to trouble you. You obviously saved her life, but she is still so shameless. It's really disgusting. Don't bother with her." Luchuan smiled and said, "It's okay. This kind of person is not at all in my eyes. Her tricks can't affect me. You are all frightened today. Go to bed early." Suzirating and Chengxin Iao nodded obediently to Luchuan, and then went upstairs together to take a shower and go to bed. Suming looked at Luchuan and said with admiration, "Brother, have you ever eaten anything that can increase your luck in love? Why do I feel that every woman who comes into contact with you will fall in love with you?" Luchuan said narcissistically, "That's because my personal charm is too strong." Suming said again, "Brother, although you are very charming, you should let my sister go. She is still in school. You don't even let her go. That's too beastly. Besides, I just want to call you brother, not your brother-in-law. Go to hell." Luchuan smiled and kicked Suming. Suming pretended to be uncomfortable. "Oh, my injury hasn't healed yet, don't you, my brother-in-law, feel sorry for me?" At the same time, in a dark and gloomy alley in Bian City, 2 skinny old men walked out slowly. The 2 were surrounded by yin-ki, and wherever they passed, there were gusts of yin wind. Those who didn't know would think that the 2 had just come out of the underworld. These 2 were the 2 Zuanming elders of the Yin Gui sect, and their strength had reached the level of the 6th level of the Zuan realm. Then Suming should be in this city. Let's first investigate whether he has any close relatives here. If so, we can capture them and use them as threats. This will make things easier. Elder Zuan said. "Good." Elder Ming replied with a sinister smile. Chapter 306 Sisters. The next morning, Luchuan went to the Bian medicinal materials market alone. Now that he has reached the 5th level of the Golden Elixir, he can theoretically separate the embroiderer's nascent soul from Munan King's body. Of course, he was still struggling with whether to use the power of Long Yang to suppress the embroiderer's nascent soul, but in order to prevent unexpected situations, he felt that he had to prepare the materials needed in advance. The tower spirit was quite conscientious and only absorbed the 300-year-old spiritual medicine and 3 200-year-old medicinal materials, leaving Luchuan with 2 200-year-old medicinal materials, so he only needed to buy some auxiliary medicinal materials to refine the Kingshan pill needed to separate the nascent soul. He asked from house to house for the medicinal materials he needed, and on the roof of a house in the medicinal materials market, there were 2 beautiful women staring at him silently. One of the 2 women was delicate and slightly mature, and the other was cute and playful, with lively eyes. They were like people walking out of a painting. Just a glance would make people feel relaxed and happy, and let their imaginations run wild. Most of the shops in the medicinal materials market are bungalows. It stands to reason that the 2 of them standing on the roof like this would easily attract other people's attention. But the people below didn't notice them at all. Even if someone occasionally looked up, it seemed that they didn't see the 2 of them at all, and would quickly look away. Even Luchuan, who had reached the 5th level of the golden core, didn't notice that someone was secretly staring at him. Sister, this guy looks so bad. He is in his 20s, but he is only at the 5th level of the profound realm. This kind of talent may be acceptable in the secular world, but in the Kunlun domain, he is not even qualified to carry your shoes. I don't know what the elders in the clan are thinking, and they actually let you get engaged to such a person. The cute and playful girl pouted and said. The lovely girl said, this marriage was decided by all the elders of the tribe. They must have their considerations when choosing this person. As the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. Maybe there is something special about him that cannot be seen with the naked eye. The cute and playful girl said, sister, you think too well of this guy. I think the elders of the tribe are afraid that you will achieve too much in the future and they will be out of control, so they deliberately arranged such a marriage for you to suppress you. The lovely girl patted the cute and playful girl on the head gently. Ziana sang, you should always think on the bright side. If you always have this mentality, you will live a very tiring life. Guzayana Sang's eyes curved into crescents, and she hugged her sister Guzayadao's arm and said, oh, I still have my sister. As long as my sister is here, I will always be happy. Guzayadao looked at her sister lovingly and couldn't help but smile. Okay, we came to the secular world this time to find clues to the birth of the divine fire. Seeing this guy is just a side job. Now we know what he looks like, let's get down to business. Oh, there's no rush to find clues to the divine fire. We finally came out, so we can have some fun. Besides, are you really not curious about your fiancé? I'll help you test his character. This guy has mediocre qualifications and weak strength. If he doesn't even have a good character, then I'll be the first to oppose your marriage. Guzayana-sang showed a sly smile on his face, and then jumped directly from the roof. Zayana-sang. Guzayadao looked helpless, but he was used to his sister's willfulness, so he had to jump down with her. Luchuan bought all the auxiliary herbs he needed and walked out of the herbal medicine shop with a smile on his face. I have the soul-nourishing jade I got from the island country. When the concentrating spirit pill is successfully refined, I only need to find another magical instrument that can separate the spirit and soul, and then I can wake up my sister-in-law. Just as he was thinking about it, a cry for help suddenly came from not far away. Help! Help! Luchuan turned his head and saw that it was a cute girl who was holding her stomach and asking for help. Her face was pale, her forehead was covered with cold sweat, and her lips were purple, as if she was poisoned. I accidentally ate the leaves of wolfsbane grass. Please, save me. Guzayana-sang pitifully asked for help from the people around him. Everyone was shocked and quickly stepped back. No one dared to help. Wolfsbane is a highly toxic plant. Once eaten, it will definitely kill you. Yes, and this poison is also contagious. People who come into contact with the poison will also be eroded by the toxicity of the wolfsbane. This little girl is so unlucky that she accidentally ate this poisonous plant. Indeed, this little girl is so beautiful, but she is going to die young. What a pity. Everyone was talking about it, and they didn't dare to act rashly because of the toxicity of the wolfsbane. Seeing this, Luchuan hurried over and reached out to support Guzayana-sang. Girl, how long have you eaten the leaves of the wolfsbane? When everyone saw that Luchuan actually touched Guzayana-sang directly, their faces changed. Boy, the toxicity of the wolfsbane is contagious. If you touch him like this, aren't you afraid that you will die too? Lu Chuan didn't care. This wolfsbane is a terrible thing for ordinary people, but it is not worth mentioning for practitioners. I didn't expect him to be such a kind-hearted person. Gu Xiaosang commented in his heart, then pretended to be weak and said, just ate it not long ago. Is that so? Lu Chuan thought. Gu Xiaosang glanced at Lu Chuan and said, I heard that after the toxins of wolfsbane enter the human body, they can be sucked out by internal strength. I can feel that you are a martial artist. You should be able to use internal strength to suck all the toxins of wolfsbane out of my body, but these toxins may corrode you along the internal strength, so there is a certain probability that you will be poisoned to death with me. Big brother, are you willing to take a risk for me? The people watching the excitement around couldn't help shaking their heads. Although there is a certain probability of saving him, there is another half probability of losing his life, and everyone is strangers. If it were them, they would definitely not be willing to take such a big risk to save people. Gu Xiaorao, who was hiding in the crowd, was also looking at Lu Chuan with a little curiosity at this moment, wondering how he would deal with such a thing. Lu Chuan thought for a while and said, the risk of doing so is too great. Of course I don't want to risk my life. He is quite considerate of himself and did not get carried away by my beauty. But since you don't want to take risks, why did you come here? Why don't you just stand outside and watch the fun? You are such a hypocritical guy. Gu Xiaosang pretended to be heartbroken and said, then, am I going to die like this? I'm so pitiful. Lu Chuan said, don't worry, I have a relatively safer way to save your life. Gu Xiaosang was stunned. What way? Lu Chuan raised his fist and hit Gu Xiaosang hard in the stomach. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 307, An Interesting Person. Lu Chuan used all his strength in this punch. Of course, he did not use any spiritual power. Although he did not want to be so cruel to such a beautiful girl, he could not care less. In order to save his life, Gu Xiaosang did not expect Lu Chuan to punch her for no reason, and the force of this punch was amazing. After hitting her stomach, she almost cried out in pain. The next second, she felt her stomach churning, and then she vomited with a wow. She seldom eats, so she only vomited gastric juice and a purple leaf. Everyone exclaimed, look, it's the leaves of wolfsbane. Oh my god, this guy's brain circuit is really unusual. He actually punched the little girl and made her vomit. I've lived for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen someone save someone like this. Although this punch was a bit sudden, it is indeed a good way to save people. Now that the leaves of wolfsbane have been vomited out, the toxins left in the little girl's body can be completely controlled. This young man is very thoughtful. Gu Xiaosang originally thought that Lu Chuan had seen through her disguise, so he deliberately beat her up, and she was thinking about beating this guy up, but after hearing the discussions of the people around her, she realized that Lu Chuan was really saving her, but his methods were a bit rough, so she injured it. In the crowd, Gu Xiaorao saw this scene, and was first stunned, and then couldn't help but cover her face and giggle. Her sister has always been willful, and likes to tease others. Now she has finally been defeated by others, which is not a bad thing. After Lu Chuan punched Gu Xiaosang, and made her vomit the wolfsbane leaves she had eaten, he directly threw her to the ground, took out the silver needles, and pierced several acupuncture points on her body. Then he took out a beige pill and stuffed it into Gu Xiaosang's mouth. This set of movements was smooth and seamless, which made Gu Xiaosang stunned. Okay, you should be fine. Lu Chuan put away the silver needle and stood up from the ground. Gu Xiaosang's lips returned to their normal color and her face became a little rosy. It seemed that she was indeed fine. But when she thought of this guy punching her without saying anything, she felt unhappy. You know, she has been pampered since she was a child, and no one dared to hit her like this. This made her impression of Lu Chuan drop to the extreme. This guy is a violent maniac. My sister must not marry such a man. Suddenly, she thought of another way to test Lu Chuan. Humph, this girl is as beautiful as a fairy, and everyone loves her. If I say I want to marry him now, this stinky man will be so happy that he will be at a loss for words. His ugly face will definitely be exposed in front of my sister. Then my sister will definitely feel disgusted with this kind of man who is obsessed with beauty, and the engagement between the two of them will definitely be over. Thinking of this, she looked at Lu Chuan with shyness and gratitude, and said, "Big brother." But Lu Chuan said lightly, "I won't charge you for the treatment this time, but the Beiji pill is very expensive. I can't give it to you for free. I won't ask you for more. You just need to give me the cost, 1,000 yuan, cash or transfer." He looked at Xiao Sang's clothes and temperament, and knew that he didn't look like an ordinary child. Besides, he only wanted the cost. 1,000 yuan for a life should be worth it. The feeling that Gu Xiaosang had just built up disappeared in an instant. The corners of her mouth twitched, and she tried not to let herself go crazy. Then she grabbed Lu Chuan's arm and said coquettishly, "Big brother, look at what you said. You saved my life. Of course I have to repay you, but giving money seems too vulgar. I have something better for you." Lu Chuan asked curiously, "What is it?" Gu Xiaosang said coquettishly, I will repay you with my body. What do you think?" Lu Chuan's face immediately drooped, and he said coldly, "Why, you don't want to give me the money for saving your life, and you want to eat and drink with me? Then you can use the name of my delaying your youth to extort money from me? You little girls, you don't learn anything good every day, and you do these useless things. Forget it. Even if I'm unlucky today, I don't want the money for Beiji Dan. Just consider it a good deed." After that, he left here with the medicinal materials. Gu Xiaosang was petrified on the spot. She never expected that she would get such an answer. Promising one's body, is it so worthless in the secular world? Not even as tempting as 1,000 yuan? Gu Xiaorao covered her mouth and walked over with a giggle. Gu Xiaosang was annoyed. "Sister, you're still laughing. This guy is so hateful. Not only did he hit me, but he actually treated me as a liar who cheated me out of money. I oppose the marriage between you two." Gu Xiaorao smiled and said, "No, at first I thought he was really ordinary, but after your test, I think he is an interesting person. Now I'm a little interested in him." Gu Xiaosang gritted his teeth and said angrily, "I don't care. Anyway, this guy's not worthy of you. If you dare to marry him, I will never call you sister again." Gu Xiaorao patted her head. Okay, don't be angry. Let's get down to business." On the way back, Lu Chuan received a call from Su Ming, asking him to buy some back, saying that Cheng Xin'iao and Su Xiaoting wanted to show their cooking skills. Lu Chuan readily agreed, and went to the vegetable market to buy vegetables, and took them back. In the evening, Cheng Xin'iao and Su Xiaoting began to work in the kitchen. At the same time, the two elder Zhu and Ming came out of Su Xiaoting's school. Elder Zhu held a photo in his hand, which was a selfie of Su Xiaoting, Cheng Xin'iao and Fan Qing. At present, we only know that one of these three people is Su Ming's sister. As long as we confirm the identity of this sister and capture her, we can threaten Su Ming and ask him about Lu Chuan's whereabouts. Elder Ming nodded. At this time, Fan Qing walked past them with a face full of resentment. Elder Ming immediately pointed at Fan Qing and said, "Isn't this the girl in the photo?" Elder Zhuan looked over, his eyes lit up, and smiled. "It's really easy to get it. Capture her first, and ask who is Su Ming's sister in the photo." The two immediately took action, and took Fan Qing into an empty alley. Fan Qing was angry about what happened yesterday, and was thinking about how to take revenge on Lu Chuan and the others. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew, and she was caught by two old men who looked like ghosts. It would be a lie to say that she was not scared. She could feel the terrifying aura of the two old men, and she had the same feeling as Lu Chuan when he lost his temper yesterday. She immediately concluded that these two people were definitely not ordinary. She was nervous and asked tremblingly, "What are you going to do?" Elder Zhuan smiled and handed over the photo, saying, "Don't be afraid, we are here to find Su Ming's sister, but according to our clues, we only know that his sister is one of the three of you, but we don't know which one it is, so we came to ask you." Fan Qing took a look at the photo and immediately wanted to identify Su Xiaoting. but she changed her mind and felt that this matter should not be simple, so she asked, "What are you looking for Suming's sister for?" Elder Ming deceived. "To be honest, the two of us are people who have attained the Tao. We are looking for Suming's sister because we want to give her an opportunity. You don't have to worry." Fang King did not doubt it. She felt that these two old men were indeed not simple. At the same time, a wave of jealousy rose in her heart. Su Xiaoting looked better than me, but why could she have such an opportunity? This is unfair. However, these two old men did not seem to know what Su Xiaoting looked like. If I pretended to be Su Xiaoting, wouldn't this opportunity be mine? Thinking of this, Fang King suddenly became excited. "Su Xiaoting, you broke up with me and drove me out, so don't blame me for ruthlessly snatching your opportunity." She showed a playful smile on her face and then said to the two elders of Zhu and Ming, "Actually, I'm Suming's sister, Su Xiaoting." Chapter 308 The Best Man. The eyes of the two elders Zhu and Ming lit up when they heard this. Elder Zhuan asked, "Really?" Fang King said seriously, "It's genuine." Elder Ming glanced at Elder Zhuan and said in a voice transmission, "Do you need to confirm it again?" Elder Zhuan thought about it and replied in a voice transmission, "No, I heard that female college students in modern society are very simple and generally don't lie. Since she said she is Su Xiaoting, it should be correct." Fang King looked at the two elders Zhu and Ming with expectation and asked, "To immortal masters, I wonder what opportunity you are going to give me." The two elders Zhu and Ming looked at each other, sneered on their faces, and exuded a strong yin energy, making the surrounding environment extremely gloomy. "Of course it's an opportunity that you can't imagine, little girl, just follow us obediently." Elder Ming smiled sinisterly. Fang King couldn't help but shiver, and fear rose in her heart, realizing that these two people didn't seem to be good people. "Where are you taking me?" She became alert and took 2 steps back. "Hehe, you'll know when you get there," Elder Zhuan said with a smile. Then he directly wrapped Fang King with a stream of Yuan Qi, making her unable to move. Fang King's face changed drastically. She realized that she had been deceived and immediately clarified that she was not Su Xiaoting. "I don't." A stream of Yuan Qi poured into her mouth, making it impossible for her to make a sound. Elder Zhuan was worried that she would shout and attract other people's attention, so he sealed her mouth directly. In the evening, Cheng Xin'ao and Su Xiaoting used their cooking skills. After unremitting efforts, they finally put a few plates of black dishes on the table. Lu Chuan and Su Ming sat at the dining table, staring at the dishes, and fell into deep thought. After a while, Su Xiaoting came over with a pot of soup emitting a pale green light. Cheng Xin'ao also cleaned up the kitchen and came over to sit down. Su Xiaoting saw that Lu Chuan and Su Ming were both sitting there and neither of them moved their chopsticks and asked in confusion, "Two brothers, why don't you eat?" Lu Chuan coughed twice and said, "Su Ming, you are injured. You should replenish your body. You eat first." Su Ming quickly waved his hand and said, "Brother, you are the most respected among the 4 of us. How can I dare to eat if you don't eat? You eat first. You eat first." Lu Chuan glared at Su Ming, picked up the chopsticks, looked at the plates of black dishes that looked almost the same, and didn't know where to start for a while. Cheng Xin'ao saw the problem and asked a little embarrassedly, "We don't cook much, so our skills may not be very good. Brother Lu Chuan, do you think it doesn't taste good?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, No, although they don't look very good, they should still taste very good. Let me try this fried eggplant." After that, he picked up a bite of the dish and put it in his mouth, and his expression froze instantly. Cheng Xin'ao said awkwardly, "That is scrambled eggs." Lu Chuan swallowed the dish with gritted teeth and praised, "Ha ha ha, it turns out to be scrambled eggs. No wonder the taste is so unique." Su Xiaoting looked suspicious. "Is it really so bad? I don't believe that my cooking is so bad. Let me try it." After that, she picked up a bite of the dish and put it in her mouth. The air froze for a few seconds. She put down the chopsticks with a snap, took out her mobile phone, and asked, "Let's order tequila. What do you want to eat?" Lu Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, stood up and said, "Don't order tequila. There should be a lot of food left. I'll go make a few dishes." After that, he went into the kitchen. Not long after, a rich aroma slowly came out from inside, which made Cheng Xin'ao and Su Xiaoting's stomachs growl. Soon, Lu Chuan made 4 dishes and a soup with good color, fragrance, and taste and placed them on the table. Cheng Xin'ao and Su Xiaoting's eyes lit up, and they never expected that Lu Chuan actually had such cooking skills. Brother Lu Chuan, you are so amazing, your strength is so strong, and you can even cook so well, you are really the best man in the eyes of us girls. Cheng Xin'ao said a little bit crazy. Su Xiaoting echoed, that's right, I used to think that such men only appeared on TV, but I didn't expect to see it with my own eyes now. Brother Lu Chuan, my brother is just a waste compared to you. Su Ming was already wolfing down his rice bowl, and when he heard this, his eyes immediately glared and said, silly girl, how can you talk like that? Lu Chuan is my elder brother. My elder brother is better than me. Isn't this normal? Lu Chuan was a little embarrassed by the praise, and said with a smile, eat quickly, if you don't eat, Su Ming will eat it all. Su Xiaoting and Cheng Xin'ao quickly picked up the chopsticks, and started to eat. After a while, Su Ming's phone rang. He picked up the phone and a sinister voice came from the other end. Su Ming, your sister has been captured by us. If you don't want your sister to get into trouble, come to us now. You only have half an hour. If you come too late, we can't guarantee that your sister can go back intact. After hearing what the other party said, Su Ming showed a trace of doubt on his face. He turned his head and looked at Su Xiaoting who was eating next to him, and said, you are crazy. Then he hung up the phone. Lu Chuan glanced at him and asked, who's calling? Su Ming said, it's a scam call, saying that Xiaoting has been kidnapped. If I'm not mistaken, it must be the previous human trafficking organization that leaked my information. Those fraud companies took this opportunity to cheat me of my money. No way. Lu Chuan smiled and didn't care and continued to eat. After a while, Su Ming's phone rang again, still the same number as before. After he answered the phone, he cursed, are you done yet? I'm having dinner. If you call me again, I'll call the police. The other party's voice was a little surprised. Don't you care about your sister's safety? Su Ming said speechlessly, my sister is sitting next to me eating. Why should I care? Can you liars improve your skills? Do you really take others for fools? After that, he blocked the number directly. In an unfinished building in Beyin City, Elder Zuan took his mobile phone and called Su Ming again. After getting the response that the call could not be connected, he was completely dumbfounded. He glanced at Fang King, who was tied to a chair with a panicked face and tears, and murmured. Su Ming just said that his sister was sitting next to him eating. Elder Ming frowned. Did we catch the wrong person? Then he withdrew the spell on Fang King's mouth. Fang King immediately cried and begged, to immortal masters, you caught the wrong person. I'm not Su Xiaoting. My name is Fang King. I didn't know you were looking for her to catch her. I know I was wrong. Please let me go. The faces of the two Zuan Ming elders were gloomy. Elder Ming said unhappily, isn't it said that female college students are very innocent and won't lie? As a result, we spent so much effort and caught a fake. Elder Zuan was also a little speechless and said, who knew that there would be someone stupid enough to pretend to be someone else? Elder Ming asked, what about this girl? Elder Zuan said, kill her, so as not to let her go and cause more trouble. Fang King's face changed drastically, and she said in panic, please don't kill me. I have a way to help you catch Su Xiaoting. Chapter 309 Su Ming's Choice. The next day, Lu Chuan started to refine the soul condensing pill and did not go out of the apartment. Cheng Xin'ao and Su Xiaoting went to school. Su Ming was wandering around Beyin City alone. Beyin University. The bell rang for the end of get out of class, and Su Xiaoting went to the bathroom. As soon as she came out, she ran into a boy from the same class, who ran over and said anxiously, Xiaoting, I just saw Cheng Xin'ao fainted on the playground. You should go over and take a look. Su Xiaoting's face changed. Fainted? What's going on? The boy shrugged. I don't know about that. You should go over and take a look. Su Xiaoting didn't have time to hesitate and ran towards the playground. However, when she arrived at the playground, she didn't see anyone, let alone Cheng Xin'ao who fainted. Could it be that someone rescued her? Tsundere was anxious and quickly took out her mobile phone and called Chengxin IAO, but the call didn't go through. At this moment, she suddenly saw a person standing by the grove next to the playground, looking at her with a sinister smile. This person was none other than Fanking, who had already broken off relations with them. Fanking saw Tsundere noticed her, made a gesture of wiping her neck towards her, and then turned and walked into the grove. Tsundere's heart skipped a beat, suspecting that Fanking had deliberately knocked Chengxin IAO unconscious in order to take revenge, and then took her somewhere unknown. She was worried about Chengxin IAO's safety and ran directly towards the grove without hesitation. It was not until she reached the depths of the grove that she saw Fanking's figure. Fanking, where did you take Yao IAO? If anything happens to Yao IAO, I will never let you go. Fanking smiled at Tsundere and said, don't worry, Chengxin IAO is fine, because my goal today is not her, but you. Tsundere frowned, a sense of crisis crept up in her heart, and suddenly realized that something was wrong. She suddenly remembered that the boy who was talking to her at that time seemed to be Fanking's pursuer, or even a licker. At this moment, her cell phone rang, and it was Chengxin IAO calling. She glanced at Fanking, then at her phone, thinking that something was wrong, and then quickly answered the phone, intending to ask Chengxin IAO for help. Yao IAO, I. The next second, her body froze in place, losing the ability to move, and unable to continue speaking. The two Elder Zuenming came out from behind the tree. Elder Ming sneered and said, I have confirmed with their classmates that this is Tsundere. There is no mistake. Elder Zuen nodded. In this case, we can use this girl to threaten Suming. He looked at Fanking and asked, are you sure Lu Chuan is in Bian City and is living with Suming and others? Fanking nodded quickly. Absolutely right. That Lu Chuan is very powerful. He easily killed the people of the human trafficker organization. He is definitely the person you are looking for. Elder Zuen showed a playful smile on his face. He didn't expect that the Lu Chuan they were looking for was in Bian City and was with Suming. When Fanking said that she would help trick Tsundere out yesterday, she asked if she could help her teach Lu Chuan a lesson. The two Zuenming elders were a little surprised when they heard the name. After carefully confirming with Fanking, they found that the Lu Chuan she was talking about was the Lu Chuan they were looking for. They originally wanted to rely on threatening Suming to find out the whereabouts of Lu Chuan, but they didn't expect Lu Chuan to come to them. So they immediately changed their plan and planned to use Tsundere to threaten Suming and let Suming help deal with Lu Chuan. In this way, we can save a lot of trouble and easily get rid of this Lu Chuan. The two Zuenming elders smiled at each other, and they felt that this mission was much smoother than they imagined. At this time Fanking said weakly, to Immortal Masters, I have tricked Tsundere here as you requested. Can you let me go now? Elder Zuen glanced at her, smiled and said, let you go? You are overthinking. You already know all our plans. If we let you go, you will go and tell the supervisory department. Then our plan will not be able to proceed. Our Yingui sect has been targeted by the supervisory department. We have to be careful when we come to the city to avoid being spotted by the supervisory department. We will not give you the opportunity to report us. Fanking's face changed, and she quickly said, I swear, I will never report you, and I will keep my mouth shut. Elder Zuen sneered and said, you can even do such a thing as pretending to be your classmate. Do you think we will believe what you say? But don't worry, we won't kill you for helping us. You look good and you're healthy, so you can be a pet for our disciples. They practice evil methods and deal with ghosts every day. If they don't vent from time to time, they will have psychological problems, so you can go to our sect to serve our disciples. After saying that, he clapped his hands, and a figure lingering in the yin appeared. Take her back to the sect. Yes. The figure didn't hesitate, grabbed Fanking, and left here. No matter how Fanking begged for mercy, he was unmoved. Elder Ming looked at Tsundere and said lightly, start planning. In the afternoon, Suming was watching beautiful women on a pedestrian street. At this time, he suddenly received a call from Tsundere. As soon as the call was connected, the voice of the scammer from yesterday came from the other side. This is your sister's phone. Now you should believe that she is in our hands, right? Suming frowned. Who are you? If you want to know who I am, Come and see me immediately, otherwise we don't mind doing something to your tender sister. Remember, don't tell Luchuan, otherwise I will kill your sister immediately. After that, the phone was hung up, and then a location was sent. Suming felt a little worried, and after hesitating again and again, he went to the location alone. Soon, he came to an unfinished building. The two Xuanming elders were waiting here with Suzayating, who was tied up. When Suming saw Suzayating, he was a little excited and rushed over to save people immediately. Let my sister go. He exerted all his strength and attacked the two Xuanming elders. However, the next second, a terrifying Yanqi appeared and hit him, knocking him out directly. Boy, you are nothing but an ant in our eyes. If it weren't for your usefulness, I would have killed you with just one move. Elder Ming said coldly. Suming got up from the ground, looked at the two elders Xuanming solemnly, and gritted his teeth and said, "What do you want to do?" Elder Xuan came over and said lightly, "Nothing, we just want you to help us deal with Luchuan. We heard that he destroyed the human traffickers organization alone. I have heard of that organization. The three leaders are all strong. He can kill 3 people alone, which means that his strength is far beyond our expectations. So if we want to deal with him, we can only use some means." Suming gritted his teeth and shouted, "You want me to deal with my eldest brother? Absolutely impossible." Elder Xuan sneered, "Really?" He turned around, pinched Suzayating's mouth, and then stuffed a black poisonous insect into it. Suzayating's face was immediately full of pain, and some black blood vessels appeared on her neck, looking hideous and terrifying. "The thing I gave her is called the heart-eroding goo. It is a goo worm that was raised by the unique secret method of the Yunji sect. If there is no way to dissolve it, this goo worm will eat your sister's heart clean in 3 days, and she will die in despair and pain. Now you still refuse to help us deal with Luchuan?" Suming's face was full of anger. "You bunch of despicable villains." Elder Xuan had a calm face and threw a medicine bottle towards Suming. "Give Luchuan the powder in this medicine bottle with water. This way, his tendons and veins will be broken, his dantian will be shattered, and he will become a useless person. Bring him to see us, and I will dissolve the heart-eroding goo in your sister." Suming took the medicine bottle, narrowed his eyes, and said, "Give my sister back to me. Anyway, you have already put a goo on her. I don't want you to do anything else to her when I'm not around. If you don't agree to this, don't expect me to help you." Elder Xuan sneered, raised his hand, and waved it lightly, and Suzayating flew to Suming. Suzayating had passed out because of the poison. Suming quickly caught Suzayating, looking at his sister's state with a distressed face. "Remember, you only have 3 days, and only the Yunji sect has the method to dissolve the heart-eroding goo. If you can't do what we ask, just wait and see your sister die of despair." In the apartment, Luchuan successfully refined the soul condensing pill, put it into a jade bottle, and put it into the demon suppressing tower. He came out of the room in a good mood. Just at this time, Suming returned to the apartment. He looked at Suming, who seemed a little haggard, and asked, "Suming, what's wrong with you? You seem to be worried." Suming forced a smile and said, "No, nothing. I lost my wallet outside today, and I feel a little sad." Luchuan smiled and said, "That's really bad." He walked to the sofa and sat down, stretched his neck, and then said, "By the way, Suming, I have been practicing alchemy for a day, and I'm a little thirsty. Go and pour me a glass of water." Suming was stunned, and then quickly agreed, "Okay, I'll go and pour it." The water dispenser was under the stairs, just where Luchuan was facing away. Suming took a glass of water, and then took out the jade bottle given by the two elders of Xuanming. After being stunned for a long time, he gritted his teeth, made up his mind, opened the jade bottle, and poured the powder inside. The powder melted when it came into contact with water, and then disappeared, and there was no problem. He took a deep breath, and comforted himself in his heart. "Those two bastards forced me to do this. Xioting's life is still in their hands. I have no choice at all." After making up his mind, he calmed himself down, walked up to Luchuan, handed him the water, and said, "Brother, this is the water you asked for." Luchuan took it with a smile. "Thank you." Chapter 310, Transfer Method. Suming stared at the glass of water in Luchuan's hand. His heart was full of torment. Luchuan raised the glass and put it to his mouth. Cold sweat broke out on Suming's forehead, and he was enveloped by self-blame, guilt, and regret. But when he thought that his sister's life and death were controlled by others, he felt helpless. Contradictory emotions were pulling back and forth in his heart, and he wished he could die immediately so that he wouldn't have to worry about these things. Seeing that Lu Chuan was about to drink the water, Suming finally couldn't help it and knocked over the glass in Lu Chuan's hand. Bang! The glass fell to the ground and shattered, and the water spilled all over the floor. Lu Chuan was confused, turned his head to look at Suming, and asked, "Are you having a seizure?" Suming knelt directly in front of Lu Chuan. 2 lines of tears fell, and said in a hoarse voice, "Brother, I'm sorry for you. You just kill me." Lu Chuan looked at Suming suspiciously and asked, "Did you steal my money?" Suming was stunned for a moment, and his emotions were disrupted. He took a deep breath, pointed to the water on the ground and said, "I put drugs in this glass of water. If you drink it, your tendons and veins will be broken, and your dantian will be shattered. You have saved me from danger many times, but I want to hurt you. I don't deserve to live in this world." Lu Chuan was stunned, and used his spiritual sense to check the water on the ground, and found that it did contain an extremely strong toxin. He stared at Suming and asked, "Why do you do this?" Suming told the story again. "Zioting is my closest relative, and I was eager to save her, so I put drugs in your water. But you have been so kind to me. You are like a family member to me. I really can't bear to hurt you, so I knocked over the glass of water just now. Although I stopped you from drinking that glass of water, I still chose to poison you. Brother, I betrayed you. You just kill me." Suming knelt on the ground and lowered his head weakly. After listening to this, Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Get up. You are my brother. How could I kill you?" Suming looked up in surprise and said, "But I almost hurt you." Lu Chuan said, "But didn't you stop me from drinking this glass of water in the end? It shows that you still recognize me as your big brother. And if I kill you, what about Zioting? You will just ignore her?" Suming said with a face full of self-blame, I don't know what to do." Lu Chuan's face turned cold, and murderous aura burst out of his eyes. He said, "The people who are really wrong in this matter are those dogs of the Yinji sect. I didn't expect that they would find here to deal with me, and if I'm not mistaken, there must be the secret push of the immortal elder behind this." Suming's tears kept flowing. He looked at Lu Chuan guiltily and asked, "Brother, do you really not blame me?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Okay, stop being pretentious. If I can't even tell right from wrong, what kind of big brother am I? You'd better bring Zioting here to me. Maybe I can find a way to cure the heart erosion goo in her body." Suming's face was immediately full of excitement. He kowtowed to Lu Chuan several times and said, "Brother, from now on, no matter what problems I encounter, I will never be so stupid again. I will definitely discuss it with you." Then he hurried to bring Zioting back from the hotel. Lu Chuan asked Suming to put the unconscious Zioting on the sofa, and then began to feel her pulse and observe the condition of her body with his spiritual sense. Soon, he locked the location of the heart erosion goo and observed the state of the goo worm. After a while, he frowned. Suming asked nervously, "Brother, is there any way to cure this heart eroding goo?" Lu Chuan said, "The level of research on goo worms by these guys in the Yinji sect is really high. This heart eroding goo cannot be destroyed by force, and it cannot be forcibly removed from the body, otherwise it will cause the death of the host. Once host, the goo worm will be tied to the life of the host. Even if the goo worm is taken out by special means, once the goo worm dies, the host will die instantly." The people of the Yinji sect left a special mark in the goo worm, which can observe the state of the goo worm. Once they find that the goo worm has been taken out, they will most likely use special means to make the goo worm die on its own, thereby killing the host. After listening to this, Suming showed a trace of despair on his face. So, except for the methods mastered by the Yinji sect, there is no other way to save Zioting's life. Lu Chuan nodded and said, "In theory, it is true." Suming looked at Zioting with heartache and sighed helplessly. But in addition to the method mastered by the Yinji sect, there is actually another way to save Zioting's life. Lu Chuan said again. Suming's eyes lit up, and he quickly asked, "What method?" Lu Chuan said, this goo worm essentially relies on human life for nutrients to survive. Once it leaves a human body's nourishment, it will die immediately and release toxins to kill all living things within 100 meters. But if the goo worm is transferred from one person's body to another, as long as the nutrients of the goo worm are not lacking, it will not die, and the previous person who was parasitized will be out of danger. Of course, the danger has not disappeared, it has just been transferred to the other person who is parasitized. Hearing this, Su-Ming immediately said, brother, please transfer the goo worm from Xiaoting to me. It is better for me to die than for Xiaoting to die. Anyway, I have lived enough, and Xiaoting is in her prime. It would be a pity for her to die like this. Lu Chuan curled his lips and said, you talk as if you are already 80 years old. You are not much older than Xiaoting. Su-Ming said, she is my sister. If someone has to die, it must be me. Lu Chuan waved his hands and said, okay, I know you love Xiaoting very much, but neither of you have to die. I plan to transfer the poison to myself. Su-Ming was stunned for a moment and quickly said, brother, how can this be? The people from the Yingui sect are coming for you. If you are infected with the heart-eroding poison again, wouldn't it be exactly what they want? Lu Chuan said lightly, precisely because they are coming for me, I should bear this danger, and I have a special physique. Maybe this heart-eroding poison will not work on me. Okay, that's it. Don't waste any more time. Then he immediately cast a spell, and after tinkering with Xiaoting's body, he successfully transferred the heart-eroding poison to his own body. Su-Ming watched the black blood vessels on Xiaoting's neck recede, turned his head, and asked Lu Chuan, brother, has the heart-eroding goo transferred to you? Lu Chuan nodded. Xiaoting is no longer in danger, and should wake up soon. Su-Ming quickly asked, then brother, can your special physique make the effect of this heart-eroding goo ineffective? Lu Chuan felt his own condition, and said a little embarrassedly, it seems not. Chapter 311, The Change of Times. In the living room, Lu Chuan, Su-Ming, and Xiaoting sat on the sofa together, all in silence. Not long after, Cheng Xin'ao came back, and saw the three people with drooping faces. She was a little surprised and asked, what's wrong? Su-Ming glanced at Xiaoting and said, Xiaoting, you go upstairs with Xin'ao. I'll chat with my brother for a while. Xiaoting nodded, stood up and looked at Lu Chuan, and said seriously, brother Lu Chuan, thank you. Then she took Cheng Xin'ao upstairs. Cheng Xin'ao looked puzzled and asked in a low voice, Xiaoting, has something happened? Why do I feel that your brother and brother Lu Chuan don't look very good? Xiaoting smiled awkwardly and said, it's okay, they just encountered some trouble. After the two girls went upstairs, Su-Ming said, since you, brother, can't solve the problem of the heart-eroding goo now, we must not easily let the people of the Yingui sect know that the heart-eroding goo has been transferred to you. They are coming for you. Once they know that you are infected with the heart-eroding goo, I'm afraid they will instantly take your life with the mark left in the heart-eroding goo. Lu Chuan nodded and said, don't worry, there are still 2 days. I will see if there is any way to get rid of this thing in my body in these 2 days. If there is really no way, I will go to the 2 old guys of the Yingui sect to see if I can trick them into dissolving the heart-eroding goo. Of course, the worst possibility is that the heart-eroding goo would attack. If it were someone else, they might lose their life, but I think I can still bear it. Su-Ming looked helpless, and then said to Lu Chuan seriously, brother, if you really can't find a solution, you can transfer this heart erosion goo to me. You haven't avenged your great vengeance, and my sister-in-law is still sleeping. You must not die at this time. And I don't care. If it weren't for you, brother, I would have died several times. If I can die for you, it will be my honor. I don't ask for anything. I will be satisfied if you can get me a bottle of wine every year on the anniversary of the death. Lu Chuan smiled and patted his shoulder and said, don't talk nonsense. There is no trouble in this world that I can't solve. It's getting late. Go to rest first. Late at night, Lu Chuan consulted the inherited memory to find a poison method similar to the heart erosion goo. After a whole night of research, he finally found a poison method similar to the heart erosion goo. However, this poison method can only be resolved by a specific solution. Any other method will kill the parasitized person. However, the records mentioned that someone relied on his physical strength to take another heart protecting pill, forcibly destroyed the parasitic insect in his body and survived. However, this person was still tortured by the toxins released after the death of the insect, and it took decades before the poison of the insect was completely eliminated. I have a Xuanhuang immortal body. Not only are my muscles strengthened, but my internal organs are also incomparable to ordinary people. That's why I think the heart-eating insect won't take my life. If I also take a few heart-protecting pills, even if I forcefully get rid of the insect, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Thinking of this, he planned to go to the medicinal material market tomorrow to see if there are any medicinal materials for refining the heart-protecting pill. The next morning, Lu Chuan rushed to the medicinal material market. At the same time, in a luxury hotel in Bian City, Gu Xiaorao got up and went to Gu Xiaosang's room. Xiaosang, get up quickly, and we are going to look for clues to the divine fire. She opened the door of Gu Xiaosang's room, but saw that the quilt was neatly folded inside, and the person had disappeared. Where did Xiaosang go? Medicinal herbs market. Lu Chuan went from store to ask for the medicinal herbs needed to make the heart protecting pill. On the roof of a store, Gu Xiaosang was crossing his arms and staring at Lu Chuan with resentment. Although my sister didn't let me cause trouble to you, this hateful guy, not only punched me, but also made my sister laugh at me for so long. If I don't take revenge, how can I, Gu Xiaosang, gain a foothold in Kunlun domain in the future? It just so happens that I have made some progress in the art of changing the stars recently. This art is a first-class powerful magical power. You are only at the 5th level of the mysterious realm. If I use it on you, I should be able to transfer the most important things in you to me. You can achieve such success in the secular world. I must have something to rely on. For you, the most important thing must be your talent. Although this girl's talent is already very strong, I don't mind adding yours. Of course, I don't mind if I can transfer other good things to me. In short, I must teach you a lesson and let you know how powerful I, Gu Xiaosang, am. After talking to herself, Gu Xiaosang sat cross-legged on the ground and formed seals with her hands. Complex spells appeared around her, spinning slowly in circles. Strange powers appeared one after another and wrapped Gu Xiaosang up. Then she pointed at Lu Chuan, who was walking below, and a stream of light shot into Lu Chuan's body. A strange connection suddenly appeared between the two. Then Gu Xiaosang shouted softly, "The stars are turning." Something in Lu Chuan's body was immediately transferred to Gu Xiaosang's body. It's done. Gu Xiaosang stood up excitedly. Let me see what important things this guy has transferred into my body. She carefully examined her body, and after a while, the smile on her face froze, replaced by a look of horror. At this time, a terrifying poisonous insect was parasitizing on her heart, which was the heart-eating poison in Lu Chuan's body. Poisonous insect? Poisonous insect? Why is there such a thing in this guy's body? She immediately wanted to remove the poisonous insect from her body. But the next second, she realized the specialness of the poisonous insect. If she forcibly removed it, she would die on the spot. She looked at Lu Chuan with gritted teeth, wishing she could peel off his skin. Why? Why is there such a disgusting thing in your body? Did you expect that I would use the art of changing the stars on you? You're going to make me die. She, who had always teased others, was broken for the first time in her life. On the other side, Lu Chuan was thinking about how many heart-protecting pills he should refine to minimize the impact of the heart-eating insect on himself. At this moment, his body suddenly shuddered, as if something important had disappeared from his body. What a terrible feeling. Could it be that someone stole something important from me? He quickly observed himself, and after a while, an extremely stunned expression suddenly appeared on his face. Where is the heart-eating insect? Chapter 312 Solution. After repeated checks, Lu Chuan finally confirmed that the heart erosion goo was really gone. He couldn't understand what was going on, and even thought that the heart erosion goo had accidentally fallen to the ground and stared at the ground for a long time. It shouldn't be possible. This heart erosion goo would actually disappear out of thin air. Could it be that some master is secretly helping me? Just as Lu Chuan was puzzled, he suddenly felt a terrifying pressure coming. Then, he saw the girl who had accidentally eaten the leaves of the wolfsbane grass rushing towards him. "Asshole, why do you have such a disgusting thing as a goo worm in your body? Tell me how to dissolve this goo worm." Guzayana-san punched Luchuan in the stomach. What a strong force. Luchuan was startled and quickly retreated to the back, trying his best to barely avoid the attack. He looked at the girl whose life he saved in disbelief and asked in confusion, "You just said goo worm? Did you get rid of the heart erosion goo in my body?" Guzayana-san gritted her teeth and said, "This damn thing has run into my body now." Luchuan was confused and couldn't understand why the heart erosion goo ran into her body. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility, and a trace of gratitude appeared on his face, saying, "In order to repay my life-saving grace, you used special means to transfer the heart erosion goo in my body?" Guzayana-san was furious. "Repay your sister? Repay? Do you really think that a small leaf of wolfsbane can poison me to death? I was just testing you. Hurry up and tell me how to resolve this goo worm, otherwise I will kill you now." Luchuan felt that the other party's realm and strength were far above his own, and knew that the poison of wolfsbane grass did not pose any threat to her, but this made him even more confused. He rolled his eyes, stared at Guzayana-san and said, "If you explain this to me clearly, I will tell you how to dissolve the heart erosion goo." Although Guzayana-san was annoyed, even with her strength, she could not easily dissolve the heart erosion goo. She could only use a specific method. She had no choice but to tell Luchuan everything. When Luchuan learned that Guzayana-san used the art of the stars to take away the most important thing in his body, but accidentally took away the heart erosion goo, he was also stunned and unbelievable. On the one hand, he was surprised that Guzayana-san actually mastered the mysterious and extraordinary magical power of the stars, and on the other hand, he couldn't understand why the other party targeted him. "Why did you use the art of the stars turning on me? I haven't offended you, have I?" Guzayana-san said angrily. "Not only did you punch me that day, you also rejected my offer of love, which made me suffer twice, and caused my sister to laugh at me for a long time. Isn't this considered offending me? I used the art of the stars turning on you, just to punish you a little." Luchuan stared at her and asked, "Why did you test me? Who are you and your sister?" Guzayana-san didn't want to reveal her identity, so she made up a reason and said, "My sister and I are from a hidden family. We saw that you were a little unusual, so we wanted to see what kind of person you are. Who knew that you were so despicable that you hid such a horrible poisonous insect in your body, and I fell into your trap." Luchuan was speechless and said, "I didn't force you to use the art of the stars turning on me. You deserve it." Guzayana-san said angrily, "I used Daozu and crossing Yi on you just to scare you. After I vent my anger, I will return what I got from you, but now this insect can't be returned to you by Daozu and crossing Yi. Tell me how to resolve it, otherwise I will never let you go." Luchuan grinned and said, "I'm really sorry. In fact, I don't know how to resolve it." Guzayana-san glared. You are kidding me." Luchuan shrugged and said, "This insect is so dangerous. If I really had a way to resolve it, why would I keep it in my body? I was just worrying about how to solve the threat of this heart erosion goo, and then you helped me transfer it. Girl, this is called tit for tat. I saved your life. Although you were testing me, I really wanted to save you. Now you saved my life, so we are even. But I still suggest that you don't think about punishing others at every turn in the future, otherwise you will be the one who suffers in the end." After that, he turned and was about to leave. "Asshole. Stop right there." Guzayana-san released a force directly, fixing Luchuan in place. Luchuan looked helpless and said, "Girl, I know you are not an ordinary person at first glance, and didn't you say you are from a hidden family? Although this heart-eating insect is powerful, it should not be difficult for you to resolve it. Why do you have to embarrass me?" Guzayana-san snorted coldly and said, "Of course you have to solve the trouble you caused." Although she asked her family for help, it was indeed not difficult to resolve the insect, and even Guzayadorao might have a way to resolve it. But she used Daozu and crossing Yui on Luchuan, which violated the family rules, and she kept it secret from Guzayadorao. Once Guzayana-san knew about it, she would not only be punished, but also scolded by her sister. Maybe her sister would be angry and send her back to Kunlun territory for house arrest. She knew that she was in the wrong in this matter, and Gu Xiaoran would not stand on her side, so she had to solve it herself. Thinking of this, she directly released a force and hit Lu Chuan's body. Now your Danshan has been sealed by me. If you don't help me dissolve this poisonous insect, you will never be able to use your strength again in your life, and you will never be able to make any progress. Lu Chuan felt his Danshan, and was surprised to find that he really couldn't use any strength at all. He looked at Gu Xiaoran with a dark face and said, "You have brought this upon yourself. I'm just an innocent victim." Gu Xiaoran snorted, "I don't care. If you don't help me, you won't have a good life either." Lu Chuan looked helpless and said, "Okay, I'll take it as my bad luck. This heart-eroding goo is the unique method of the Yunji sect. Only they have the solution. I can help you lead them out, but whether you can get the solution from them depends on you. And you must unlock the seal in my Danshan by then." Gu Xiaoran snorted and said, "Don't worry. As long as you take me to see them, I will naturally find a way to get them to tell me the solution. After solving this goo, I will unlock your seal." Lu Chuan did not hesitate anymore. He took out his mobile phone and called Su Ming. "Help me contact the people of the Yunji sect and tell them that you have successfully caught me. If you want to meet them, you and Xiaoting don't have to show up. I can go to meet them myself." Abandoned unfinished building. Lu Chuan brought Gu Xiaoran here. "Old dog of the Yunji sect, get out of here." The two elders Zhu and Ming appeared, and when they saw that the people coming were Lu Chuan and a strange woman, they were all surprised. "Where is Su Ming? Doesn't he want to save his sister?" Elder Zhuan asked, staring at Lu Chuan with narrowed eyes. Lu Chuan curled his lips and said, "Your heart erosion goo has been transferred from Xiaoting's body to this girl's body. We came here today to ask you about the method to resolve this heart erosion goo." The two elders Zhu and Ming's faces changed. Although their sect has mastered the cultivation and resolution of the heart erosion goo, it is the first time they have heard that the goo worm can be transferred from one person to another. "Boy, do you think we are stupid? Once the heart erosion goo is parasitic, it is impossible to transfer. Besides, as long as the brain is normal, it will not transfer such a dangerous thing to oneself." "Do you mean that this girl is an idiot?" Elder Ming said. Lu Chuan couldn't help laughing, turned his head to look at Gu Xiaoran, and said, "That's what they said, not me." Gu Xiaoran's face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth, and stared at the two elders Zhu and Ming, shouting, "Hand over the method to dissolve the heart eroding goo quickly, otherwise I will beat both of you into idiots." Elder Zhuan frowned slightly, then sensed it through the mark, and said in surprise, "The heart eroding goo is really on her." He looked at Lu Chuan and said, "Su Ming didn't do as we asked. What are you doing?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "This girl is a kind-hearted person. She solved the problem of the heart eroding goo for us. Out of courtesy, I accompanied her here to ask about the method to dissolve the heart eroding goo." Elder Ming snorted coldly and said, "Even if the heart eroding goo has been transferred, so what? Lu Chuan, if you don't want this girl to die on the spot, just surrender to us immediately, otherwise once we detonate the mark, she will have no chance of survival." Gu Xiaoran snorted coldly, and a terrifying pressure descended, directly controlling the two Zhu and Ming elders. "Do you think I will give you a chance to detonate the mark?" The two Zhu and Ming elders' faces changed wildly. They could feel that the little girl in front of them could crush them to death with just one finger. Where did Lu Chuan find such a powerful person? Now, let alone detonating the mark, we can't even move. Damn it. No wonder this kid dared to come to see us. This time he really miscalculated. Gu Xiaoran stared at them coldly. "Tell me the solution. Otherwise, you should know what will happen." She stretched out her hand and pinched it gently. One of the arms of the two Zhu and Ming elders was broken. Both of them screamed, their eyes full of fear. In the face of absolute power, they didn't even have a chance to resist. Elder Zhuan endured the severe pain in his arm and said, "Girl, please show mercy. I will tell you the solution right away. Speak." Gu Xiaoran shouted. Elder Zhuan said, "During the cultivation stage, the heart eroding goo are often in pairs, one male and one female. The female has toxins in its body that can be used to kill people, and the way to resolve it is to use the male goo to completely resolve the toxins in the female goo." A black goo worm suddenly flew out of Elder Zhuan's body. "Is this the male goo?" Gu Xiaoran asked. Elder Zuan was a little horrified. He didn't expect that this girl was so terrifying that she could directly find the male goo hidden in his body. He didn't dare to hide it and quickly said, "Yes, this is the male goo. How can I use it to detoxify?" Gu Xiaosang asked. Elder Zuan said, "It's very simple. You just need to find someone to eat the male goo, and then you kiss that person. The saliva of the two of you will become each other's antidote, making the goo worm in the body turn into nutrients that are beneficial to the body and dissolve on its own." Chapter 313 Falling into the hands of the Yinji sect. Gu Xiaosang heard this and said speechlessly, "You are really disgusting. The poisonous insects you made are disgusting, but the method to dissolve them is also so disgusting." She took the male poisonous insect in her hand and said to herself, "At this point, I can only ask my sister for help. When the time comes, I will feed this thing to her mouth unexpectedly and then forcefully kiss her. Anyway, we are both girls, so kissing should be nothing. If she asks me, I will never tell her." Thinking of this, she was about to leave with the male poisonous insect. Elder Zuan reminded her, "Girl, this male poisonous insect has always been placed in the special medicine box of my Yinji sect. You just forced the medicine box open and took it out, which is considered to have activated it. If you don't find someone to eat it and kiss to detoxify it within 10 minutes, it will slowly die, and the female poisonous insect will also have a sense. Once the male poisonous insect dies, the female poisonous insect will also release the toxins in the body. At that time, you will not be able to survive." Gu Xiaosang's eyes widened, and she took a look at the male poisonous insect in her hand, and found that its vitality had indeed begun to decline. She looked at Elder Zuan in annoyance and yelled, "Why didn't you say it earlier?" Elder Zuan said embarrassedly, "How would I know that you would force the male goo out? And the toxins released by the female goo in your body will envelop this entire building. By then, none of us present here will survive. You'd better detoxify it quickly." Gu Xiaosang was anxious and said, "There are only 10 minutes. I can't even go back to the hotel. How can I detoxify?" Elder Zuan said, "Isn't Lu Chuan here? You can give him the male goo to eat and let him help you detoxify it. Of course, if you have a unique taste and like old men like us, it's not that we can't do it for you." Gu Xiaosang slapped Elder Zuan in the air. Elder Zuan screamed, his neck almost twisted, and he said in fear, "It's just a joke, just a joke. But it's true that the male goo can only survive for 10 minutes. For the sake of our lives, please detoxify us quickly." Gu Xiaosang stamped her feet in anxiety. Of course, she couldn't ask the two Elder Zuanming to detoxify her. It would be better to kill her directly. But in this case, among the people present, only Lu Chuan could help her detoxify. However, Lu Chuan was her sister's fiancé, that is, her future brother-in-law. Although whether the two of them could succeed was another matter. After all, there was such a relationship, so she would naturally resist. Lu Chuan, who was standing by, smiled, coughed twice, and said, "If it's to save everyone's lives, I can bear it a little bit." Gu Xiaosang's eyes widened, and she looked at Lu Chuan and said, "You bear it a little bit? You, how can you be so shameless?" Lu Chuan said, okay, do you want to detoxify or not? This whole community is full of unfinished buildings. It takes you 10 minutes to walk out of the community. If you want to live, don't worry about it so much. I don't despise you. If you really don't want to detoxify, then I'll run away quickly. After all, I still have a chance to survive." Gu Xiaosang cursed in her heart, "This shameless bastard dared to despise me when he saw you running away." She felt the male goo's life slipping away rapidly, and the female goo in her body had begun to react, making her whole body uncomfortable. She knew that if she hesitated, something would really happen, so she made up her mind and rushed to Lu Chuan. "Anyway, he doesn't know about the engagement between my sister and him. Afterwards, I just need to try my best to stop the two of them and make their engagement annulled, and then nothing will happen." Thinking of this, Gu Xiaosang stuffed the male goo into Lu Chuan's mouth. When the male goo parasitized on Lu Chuan's body, she took a deep breath and kissed him. Lu Chuan's mouth curled up with a smile, thinking that you used the art of changing the stars on me for no reason. I was lucky that you didn't take anything away from me. If I was unlucky, wouldn't I suffer a big loss? so this time I must take advantage of you and let you remember it. Then he hugged Guzayana-san into his arms, pried open her little mouth, and entangled with her wantonly. Guzayana-san had never kissed anyone before, and thought that lip-slamming lips would be enough, but she didn't expect Luchuan to pry open her mouth directly. This made her face flushed, and she subconsciously wanted to avoid it. But Luchuan didn't give her this opportunity, he just hugged her, and didn't let her retreat. Guzayana-san's mind was blank after being kissed. How could he do such a disgusting thing to me? But, why am I so excited? This feeling is so strange. After a long time, the two of them ended their lovemaking. Luchuan felt that the male goo in his body had dissolved and disappeared, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Guzayana-san was still in shock, muttering, "You, how could you do this to me?" Luchuan said, "I'm saving your life." Guzayana-san came back to her senses, with a hint of panic in her shame. This must not be known by her sister, otherwise she would be finished. She glared at Luchuan and threatened, "You are not allowed to tell anyone about this, otherwise I will kill you." Luchuan was puzzled and said, "It's just a kiss, what's the big deal? Why are you afraid of people knowing? Are you hiding something from me?" Guzayana-san said with a trace of panic on her face, "I didn't. Anyway, if you dare to tell anyone, I will kill you. In addition, you dare to kiss me so disgusting, you must be punished." Then she looked at the two elders Zuan Ming and asked, "This guy has a grudge against you, right?" Elder Zuan nodded and said, "Yes, we are ordered to take him back." Elder Ming's heart skipped a beat and said, "Oh no, she is not going to help Luchuan deal with us, right?" But Guzayana-san said, "Very good, his danshin has been sealed by me. Now he can't use any power, and has become an ordinary person. You take him back." Luchuan's face changed, and he quickly said, "Hey, we agreed that I brought you here to get the solution, and you unlock my seal, you can't go back on your word." Guzayana-san snorted coldly and said, "Who asked you to kiss me so much? I was angry, so I changed my mind. And this is also a test for you. If you can't even overcome this little difficulty, then what qualifications do you have to be with my sister?" At this point, she quickly shut up and pinched her thigh hard. She almost let it slip. Damn it. She glared at Luchuan, turned her head to look at the two elders of Zuan Ming, and said, "This guy's yours." Then she jumped out of the unfinished building and left here. "Come back to me." Luchuan frowned, and didn't expect that he would be tricked by Guzayana-san in the end. "I shouldn't have taken advantage of her earlier. It's really a death wish." He turned his head to look at the two elders of Zuan Ming, smiled awkwardly, and said, "Well, I remembered that I have something else to do, so I won't stay any longer. Bye." After that, he turned and ran. With his power sealed, he couldn't jump down directly like Guzayana-san, so he could only take the stairs. The two Zuan Ming elders laughed sinisterly, and after a few flashes, they were already behind Luchuan and grabbed him. "Boy, that girl has said that you are ours. Do you think you can still run away?" Luchuan showed a trace of despair on his face and gave up resistance. Although the two Zuan Ming elders were crippled by Guzayana-san, this was still not something he could contend with his power sealed, and resistance was just a waste of time. "You stupid girl, wait for me. If I survive this time, the next time I see you, it will be more than just a kiss." Guzayana-san returned to the hotel. Guzayana was already sitting on the sofa waiting. When she saw her come back, she asked in a reproachful manner, "Guzayana-san, where did you go?" Guzayana-san dodged her eyes and said, "There is an amusement park nearby. I have never been there, so I went there secretly, to play for a while." Guzayana stood up, and came to Guzayana-san. After staring at her for a few times, she was surprised and said, "Hey, why is your face red?" Guzayana-san explained in a panic that, "It's sunny outside, and I got sunburned when I was playing in the amusement park. Sister, it's getting late. Let's go find clues to the divine fire. Don't delay." Then she hurried to pack up. Guzayana looked puzzled and murmured, "Strange, I always feel that this girl is hiding something from me." Deep in the mountains and old forests, in a gloomy valley, the Yingui sect is located. The two elders Zuan Ming took Luchuan into the sect. Not long after, a man wearing a black cloak, with a pale face, and moving like a ghost, came over. This person is none other than the current leader of the Yunji sect, Yin Changsheng. Yin Changsheng stared at Lu Chuan and asked, "Is this person Lu Chuan?" Elder Zuan nodded. "Yes, it's this person." Lu Chuan glanced at Yin Changsheng and said, "We have no grudges against you. Why did you arrest me?" Yin Changsheng sneered and said, "No grudges? My Yunji sect's law enforcement elder Mulaogi died in your hands. How dare you say such a thing? Besides, the great elder specifically asked me to bring your body to see him. Why do you say we arrested you? It's really the great elder, that bastard." Lu Chuan cursed inwardly, rolled his eyes, and said, "When I came here just now, I observed your sect, and found that your sect has existed for a very long time. It should have a much deeper foundation than the Zuan sect. A sect with a long history, like yours, is willing to be a lackey for the Zuan sect. Don't you feel ashamed? If you let me go, I can help your sect develop, so that you don't have to rely on the great elder to survive in the future. How about it?" Yin Changsheng snorted coldly and said, "The history of our Yunji sect is indeed much longer than that of Zuan sect, and our founder is a godlike figure. It's a pity that the changing times have led to the decline of our Yunji sect until now. I do have the idea of expanding the sect, but you think that just like a young boy like you can make our Yunji sect surpass Zuan sect. Don't you think it's ridiculous? The great elder once told me that you have many strange methods, and you can always do things that surprise people. When dealing with people like you, there must be no hesitation. Otherwise, once you seize the opportunity, you may be able to turn the tables. So you don't have to think about fooling me here to gain a chance of survival. I won't give you any chance. Go to hell." As soon as the voice fell, he released a thick Yun energy and swept towards Lu Chuan. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 314, Soul Destroying Pool. Seeing this, Lu Chuan's face changed, and then his eyes suddenly turned dark gold, releasing a strange power. Immortal Golden Pupil. The yin ki of Yin Changsheng instantly burned up when it encountered the immortal golden pupil, and it was impossible to get close to Lu Chuan. The faces of the two Elder Zuanming changed, and Elder Zuan exclaimed, "Isn't your Danshan sealed? Why can you still resist the yin ki released by our leader?" Yin Changsheng frowned and said, "He didn't use his power. This seems to be a pupil technique that can restrain yin ki." Lu Chuan laughed and said, "Your leader is still knowledgeable. You are right. Although my power is sealed, I still have the immortal golden pupil. My pupil technique is specifically used to restrain things like ghosts, so you'd better let me go quickly. Otherwise, who will live and who will die in the end, it's hard to say." The immortal golden pupil is the companion magical power of the Zuanhuang immortal body. As long as the Zuanhuang immortal body is still there, the immortal golden pupil can be used. It's just that Lu Chuan deliberately exaggerated it to scare the people of the Yunji sect. Although the immortal golden eye can restrain the yin ki, it can only restrain it. If he can't use his power, it will be easy for the people of the Yunji sect to kill him. Yin Changsheng stared at Lu Chuan with interest for a few times, and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that there is such a magical pupil technique in the world that can restrain the yin ki to this extent. But your power is sealed now, just like an ordinary person. To kill you, there are more than just yin ki." Lu Chuan's expression froze, and a hint of awkward smile appeared on his face. He said, "Sect Master, let's discuss something." Yin Changsheng glanced at Elder Zuan and said, "The great elder asked me to bring this kid's head to see him. You take a knife and chop off his head. I don't believe that his pupil technique can restrain weapons." Elder Zuan showed a playful smile on his face, and immediately took out a machete and chopped towards Lu Chuan's neck without saying a word. "Boy, go to hell." Clang. The imagined scene of a flying head did not appear, but a broken machete flew out. Lu Chuan was intact, with no scars on his neck. Elder Zuan couldn't believe it. How is this possible? Yin Changsheng also took a curious look at Lu Chuan's body, and found that the hardness of his flesh was comparable to that of metal. It was no exaggeration to say that he was as hard as steel, iron and copper. It seems that what the elder said is true. You do have many unexpected means. It seems that it is impossible to kill you with ordinary methods. Yen Shangsheng said thoughtfully. Lu Chuan breathed a sigh of relief quietly, thinking that it was a good thing that you subconsciously thought that I could restrain the yin qi, so you didn't use too much strength when you cut me. Otherwise, as long as you hit me with all your strength, I would definitely not be able to withstand it. Although his Xuanhuang immortal body is powerful, it is only the first stage, and Elder Xuan is a master of the 6th level of the Xuan realm. If he poured all his strength into the machete and then cut Lu Chuan's body would have been separated long ago. Master, I didn't use too much strength just now. Next, I will try to chop him with all my strength to see if he can still bear it. Elder Xuan said. Lu Chuan's face changed and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He thought to himself, do you want me to do whatever I want? But Yin Shangsheng waved his hand and said, no need. This kid has too many strange methods. If he has any other way to behead and reborn, it will be useless for us to chop off his head. So it's better to throw him directly into the soul-destroying pool. It's safer. Elder Xuan smiled when he heard this and said, that's true. In this case, throw him into the soul-destroying pool. Lu Chuan had an uneasy premonition in his heart and asked, what is the soul-destroying pool? You'll know when you get there. Yen Shangsheng said, and turned to walk towards the back mountain of the sect. The two elders Zhu and Ming immediately took Lu Chuan and followed. Not long after, the three of them arrived in front of a cliff in the back mountain of the Yunji Ui sect. This place is extremely gloomy and terrifying, and there is a sense of danger everywhere. As soon as Lu Chuan came here, he found that this place is obviously different from other places. There is no vitality here, even bacteria and microorganisms cannot survive. It is a real dead place. Lu Chuan also guessed the reason for this environment. From time to time, in the abyss under the cliff, there will be air currents with extinction of all vitality. Any creature that comes into contact with these air currents will die instantly. Even high-level masters of the Xuan realm such as Yin Shangsheng and Xuan Mingaleo have to use Yin Qi to protect their bodies after coming here to avoid being touched by the death air current. The abyss below is the soul-snatching pool. It is a naturally formed dangerous place with many undercurrents that carry the power to annihilate everything. No matter how strong a person is, he will surely die and be completely eroded when he encounters these undercurrents. My Yunji Ui sect has been here for many years, and no one in the sect has ever successfully entered the soul-snatching pool and survived. Even though we all want to know what secrets are hidden under the soul-snatching pool, once we go down, we will never be able to come up again. So this place got the name Soul-Snatching Pool, and became a place of punishment for my Yunji Ui sect. Over the years, countless enemies and foes of my Yunji Ui sect have been thrown into this soul-snatching pool, and most of them didn't even leave their bodies behind. And according to my observation, anyone who is eroded by the undercurrent in the soul-snatching pool will have their souls completely dissolved. It can be said to be a real good place to destroy corpses and get rid of all traces. You think you have a strong body, but can you withstand the impact of the undercurrent under the soul-snatching pool? Yen Shangsheng turned his head to look at Lu Chuan with a playful smile on his face. Lu Chuan swallowed his saliva, and a fine layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. At this time, Elder Ming came over with a chicken, and said with a smile, "Boy, watch carefully, I will show you the horror of the soul-destroying pool." After that, he threw the chicken directly under the cliff. The chicken quickly fluttered up, and at this moment, a stream of air rushed over, and the chicken instantly lost half of its body. Then another stream of air rushed over, and the remaining half of the body disappeared without a trace. As Yin Shangsheng said, the airflow in the soul-destroying pool can indeed erode any life, even leaving no soul. Lu Chuan naturally didn't think he could withstand this terrifying and weird power. Tower Spirit, don't recover yet, come and save me. He called out to the Tower Spirit frantically in his heart. In fact, he was able to remain calm before, because although his power was sealed, the Tower Spirit of the Demon Suppressing Tower absorbed the medicinal effects of a 300-year-old medicinal herb and 3 200-year-old medicinal herbs, and his power had been partially restored. Moreover, the Tower Spirit has an independent consciousness, and can still rescue Lu Chuan at the critical moment. The voice of the Tower Spirit sounded, "I have observed it just now. There seems to be some extremely terrifying things hidden in the abyss under this cliff. Those air currents are just a small part of the power emitted by these things. This power is somewhat familiar, but I can't remember what it is. In short, it is very dangerous down there. If you are thrown down, there is almost no possibility of survival. Although I have recovered some of my strength, I can only help you withstand the undercurrent for 5 minutes at most. After that, I can't do anything. So, do you want to leave some last words? Luchuan. Actually, I also feel that the breath of power emitted by those air currents is somewhat familiar. I always feel that I have seen it somewhere, but I can't remember what it is. But then again, can't you save my life? For example, let me hide in the demon suppression tower or something? The tower spirit said, of course you can, but you can only seal you in the demon suppression tower in the way of sealing monsters. At that time, you should meet Jieling Yuansheng. As for whether it will kill you, I don't know. Luchuan's expression froze and said, can't I go to the space where my spiritual consciousness entered? The tower spirit said, yes, but only when your strength reaches the nascent soul stage. Luchuan was a little desperate. He originally thought that the demon suppression tower could still help him, but now it seems that he thought too much. Then can you help me break the seal in my dungeon? The tower spirit said, I'm just a tower spirit. And even if I help you break the seal, you can't beat the three of them together. When you are killed, the demon suppression tower will fall into the hands of these three evil people. Instead of that, I would rather you die in the abyss, so that you don't have to worry about the demon suppression tower falling into their hands, and I can wait for a destined person. Luchuan's heart arose the urge to strangle this tower spirit. He hasn't died yet, and this guy's actually looking forward to the next destined person. After knowing that the tower spirit is unreliable, he began to think quickly about other ways to save his life. At this time Yin Shang glanced at him and said, okay, I have explained the characteristics of the soul destroying pool to you clearly. Do you want to jump in by yourself, or do you want us to push you in? Luchuan forced a smile on his face and said, Master, didn't the Great Elder tell you to carry my head to see him? If you push me in, there will be no body left. How can you report to the Great Elder? Otherwise, you should find another way to kill me. Yen Shang smiled and said, the Great Elder's original intention was just to confirm that you were dead, not to take your head as a collection. As he said this, he took out a mobile phone and turned on the video function. I just need to record the process of you jumping into the soul destroying pool. The effect is the same. Luchuan glared and said, your crappy place doesn't even have a signal. Why do you have a mobile phone? Yen Shang smiled and said, I like modern movies very much, so every time they go out, I will ask them to download some movies for me to watch on their mobile phones. What, is it not possible? Then he gave the two Zuanming elders a look. The two Zuanming elders understood and stepped forward together to push Luchuan off the cliff. Fuck, you sneak attacked me, you have no moral principles. Luchuan's voice gradually became deep and distant, and it could be heard that he had fallen into the abyss. Chapter 315 A Blessing in Disguise. Yen Shang recorded the video and put away his phone. Elder Zuan said with some doubt, this kid was not washed to death by the undercurrent at the first time, but fell into the abyss. This shouldn't be the case. Yen Shang said, his body is special, so it's normal for him to resist longer than ordinary people. However, the deeper the soul-destroying pool is, the more turbulent the undercurrent is, and the power of the undercurrent will become stronger and stronger. There is no possibility of him surviving if he falls in. Elder Ming smiled and said, what the sect leader said makes sense. For so many years, no one has fallen into the depths of the soul-destroying pool and survived. We can go and report to the Great Elder. The three of them were extremely sure that Luchuan was dead and turned around and left here. Under the abyss, Luchuan fell rapidly, and then with a bang, he fell on the hard rock. The rock shattered. If he didn't have the Zuanhuang immortal body, he would probably have been killed just by falling from a cliff 100 meters high. Tower Spirit, help me resist the undercurrent here, otherwise I will definitely die. Luchuan shouted anxiously. The Tower Spirit said, don't you realize that you are already in the undercurrent? Luchuan was stunned for a moment, then observed his surroundings, and found that this place was already filled with that terrifying undercurrent. To be more precise, it was filled with something like gas. Because it was too dense, it didn't matter whether it flowed or not. Lu Chuan was full of surprise and felt his physical condition and found that he didn't show any symptoms of injury, which was completely different from the condition of the chicken dropped by Eldaming. What made him a little unexpected was that he felt a sense of familiarity when he was in this special gas. What's going on? Lu Chuan was confused. The tower spirit said, when you felt just now, your body was already engulfed by many undercurrents. I originally wanted to save your life, but I found that your body was not damaged at all after contacting these undercurrents, so I ignored you. Lu Chuan stretched out his hand to feel the airflow around him and said, I always feel that these airflows are a bit familiar, but I can't tell where I have seen them. The tower spirit said, this place is a little special. Since these airflows have no effect on you, you can explore them, and maybe you will find out what is going on. Lu Chuan nodded and turned his head to look around. This place is deep and quiet. Because of the existence of these airflows, no living creatures can be seen. There is a dead feeling everywhere. Lu Chuan felt the direction of these airflows, determined their possible sources, and then went to find them. After walking about a kilometer, Lu Chuan suddenly saw a light golden light appearing in front of him. He was very excited and ran over. He found that there was a lotus platform in the mountain. On the platform, there were several golden gases moving around. No matter how they moved, they could not leave the range of the lotus platform. The terrifying gases around were emitted by these golden gases. When Lu Chuan saw these golden gases, his eyes immediately widened, and then he almost jumped up in excitement. Zuan Huan Qi. It's Zuan Huan Qi. The Zuan Huan Qi contained endless power and released the gas diluted tens of thousands of times to the outside all the time. No wonder I felt that these airflows were familiar. It turned out to be Zuan Huan Qi. It was just because it was diluted too much that I couldn't remember where I had seen this thing for a while. No wonder they have no effect on me. My Zuan Huang immortal body is based on Zuan Huan Qi. They will naturally not attack me. Lu Chuan stood in front of the lotus platform with indescribable excitement on his face. The tower spirit's voice sounded, congratulations, this time it can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. Lu Chuan smiled and said, it is indeed a blessing in disguise. I originally thought I was really going to die this time. Now it seems that the Yunji Ui sect really gave me a great gift. There are 5 Zuan Huang Qi here. If I absorb them all, the Zuan Huang immortal body can be upgraded to the 2nd or even 3rd stage. By then, combined with my strength of the 5th golden elixir, even if it is the leader of the Yunji Ui sect plus those 2 old things, I have the confidence to fight. The tower spirit said, then you should absorb these Zuan Huang Qi quickly. I feel that there seems to be something under this lotus treasure platform, but I can't see what it is. You have to wait until you absorb the Zuan Huang Qi before you can explore it. Lu Chuan nodded, and after thinking for a while, he sat cross-legged directly into the lotus treasure platform and sat down. The Zuan Huang Qi revolved around his body, and he began to absorb it by relying on the induction between the Zuan Huang immortal body and the Zuan Huang Qi. When the first Zuan Huang Qi was absorbed into Lu Chuan's body, the seal left by Guzianasang in his danshan was broken, allowing him to regain his strength. He did not hesitate, and immediately began to absorb the second Zuan Huang Qi. This is a slow process. It will take at least a few days to absorb all 5 Zuan Huang Qi. Just as Lu Chuan was concentrating on absorbing the Zuan Huang Qi to temper his body, a group of people wearing the unique uniforms of the supervisory department quietly lurked in the woods outside the Yunji Ui sect. These people have a crescent pattern on their chests, which is the unique symbol of the supervisory department soul hunting team. This team consists of a Zuan Realm 7th level, 2 Zuan Realm 5th level, and 4 Zuan Realm 4th level masters. In addition, they also brought many ordinary masters of the supervisory department, with a staff size of nearly 100 people. The captain of this soul hunting team, that is, the Zuan Realm 7th level master, is named Zhang Kangan. This time he was ordered to lead a group of masters from the supervisory department to encircle and suppress the Yunji Ui sect. The Yunji Ui sect was founded with its sinister and vicious skills, and it has killed countless innocent people. The supervisory department has long been secretly investigating the details of the Yunji Ui sect. Now they have finally figured out the overall strength of the Yunji sect, so they specially sent the elite soul hunting team of the supervisory department to lead the team to eradicate this cancer of the Yunji sect. A member of the soul hunting team came to Zhang Kangan and said, "Captain, I just got the news that the two Zuanming elders of the Yunji sect went out not long ago, and after returning, they each broke an arm." Zhang Kangan nodded and said, "This is a good thing for us. The strength of the two Zuanming elders is both in the 6th level of the Zuan realm. I was originally worried that you and Liu Yuan would not be their opponents. Now that they have broken their arms, their strength will definitely decrease. You should have no pressure to deal with the two of them. When the time comes, you just need to delay until I kill Yin Changsheng, and we will definitely be able to destroy the Yunji sect. Captain is wise." The man smiled and clasped his fists. At this time, a girl with a curvy figure ran over. "Brother Yun." Zhang Kangan turned his head and looked over, with a smile on his face. "Zina." The girl hugged Zhang Kangan's arm and said, "Brother Yun, after you get rid of the Yunji sect this time, will it be considered a great achievement? Then can you take me to the provincial capital of Jiangbei province to teach that guy Lu Chuan a lesson?" This girl is none other than Yuzin. Yu Qingfeng was proudly promoted to the headquarters of the supervisory department because of the corpse of the pavilion master of the hidden killing pavilion given by Lu Chuan. Yuzin naturally went to the headquarters with him. Although her personality and temper are not pleasing, she is beautiful and has a good figure. People in the headquarters don't know about her past deeds, so she is very popular. By chance, she met Zhang Kangan from the soul hunting team. The two of them fell in love with each other and naturally became a boyfriend and girlfriend. Yu Qingfeng felt that Yuzin was too willful in the past because he protected her too well. After hearing about the operation to encircle and suppress the Yunji sect, he asked Zhang Kangan to take her with him to carry out the mission to train her character. With the resources of the headquarters, Yuzin has now reached the level of transformation and is qualified to participate in the encirclement and suppression mission, so she followed. Obviously, Yu Qingfeng's idea of using the mission to hone Yuzin was a bit too naive. This woman's temper has indeed changed a lot, but her desire to retaliate against Lu Chuan has never stopped. It happened that Zhang Kangan was a real elite of the supervisory department. She felt that Lu Chuan was not qualified to compare with Zhang Kangan, so she acted coquettishly with Zhang Kangan and asked him to accompany her to teach Lu Chuan a lesson after this mission. She belittled Lu Chuan in front of Zhang Kangan, saying that his character was corrupt and she had completely become a victim. Zhang Kangan smiled and glanced at Yuzin, saying, "Don't worry, that Lu Chuan is such a scumbag. How could I let him go easily?" Yuzin happily shook Zhang Kangan's arm and said, "Brother Yun is the best. Compared with you, that Lu Chuan is worthless. You are doing big things like destroying the Yunji sect, while he may be bullying children in some corner." Zhang Kangan smiled and said, "Okay, we will start the action later. Although I'm very confident about this mission, there must be many dangers inside. You must be more careful." Yuzin smiled and said, "With Brother Yun here, I will definitely be fine." Not long after, Zhang Kangan gave the order and began to formally launch a siege against the Yunji sect. 2 days later, under the cliff, Lu Chuan sat cross-legged on the lotus treasure platform and absorbed the last ray of Zuan Huang Qi into his body. At this time, his body was emitting a strong golden light, and the breath emitted by his flesh alone was already extremely terrifying. With these 5 Zuan Huang Qi, he successfully upgraded his Zuan Huang immortal body to the 3rd stage. Now his body has basically reached the point where it can withstand tank shells. In addition to the increase in physical strength, his explosive power has also been greatly improved. Now he can only rely on his body, without relying on any external force, and with a full strength punch, he can directly hammer Huo Tao, who was known for his strong body, into a pulp. Of course, the immortal golden pupil, as a companion magical power, has also been greatly improved. Now facing Yin Changsheng again, he can rely on the immortal golden pupil to suppress the Yin energy and beat this guy to a pulp. Lu Chuan came down from the lotus treasure platform, feeling the surging power in his body, and an excited smile appeared on his face. Although I'm currently only at the 5th level of the Golden Core Realm, with the 3rd stage Xuanhuang immortal body, I'm not afraid of even the 7th level of the Golden Core Realm, let alone the 7th level of the Xuan realm. Because the Xuanhuang Qi was absorbed by Lu Chuan, the airflow in the abyss began to slowly dissipate. From now on, the horror of the soul-destroying pool will become a thing of the past. Lu Chuan's eyes fell on the lotus treasure platform, and he murmured, "This thing can trap the Xuanhuang Qi. It must be extraordinary. Put it in the demon suppression tower first, and then study it slowly later." Thinking of this, he directly put the lotus treasure platform into the demon suppression tower. As the lotus treasure platform disappeared, the ground suddenly began to tremble violently. After a while, a hole appeared on the ground, revealing the hidden space below. Chapter 316, Karma. Lu Chuan stared at the hole and said, "There is something underneath." He immediately released his spiritual sense, confirmed that there was no danger below, and jumped into the hole. The space under the cave was not large, about the size of a house. Lu Chuan turned his head and looked around, and found that it was very simple here, with only a stone table. In front of the stone table sat a skeleton. The clothes on the skeleton had long been tattered, and it could be seen that it had been dead for hundreds of years. On the stone table in front of the skeleton was an ancient thread-bound book and a piece of copper. This place should have been filled with the airflow released by the Xuanhuang Qi before, and this skeleton is intact. He must have been a cultivator at the nascent soul stage when he was alive. Lu Chuan walked towards the skeleton. As soon as he approached, a strange wave was released from the skeleton, and then a voice rang out in the whole space. "I'm Yun Zhongzi. I fought with Huang Quan Laowa for the Xuanhuang Qi, and hid here, after being seriously injured." Lu Chuan was startled at first, and then realized that this should be the message left by the dry bones to the person who found this place before his death. So he listened carefully. When he heard the name Huang Quan Laowa, he showed a touch of surprise on his face, and his first reaction was Huang Quan Lao Zu. Of course, this dry bone left a lot of information. He didn't care to think about it, and continued to listen to the content behind. Not long after, Lu Chuan had completely understood the origin of this dry bone. At the same time, he also confirmed that the Huang Quan Laowa he mentioned was the Huang Quan Lao Zu he met when he was in the island country. And Huang Quan Lao Zu was the founder of the Yunji Ui sect. 100 years ago, Yun Zhongzi and Huang Quan Lao Zu discovered the existence of Xuanhuang Qi in a secret place at the same time. The two fought for the Xuanhuang Qi. In the end, Yun Zhongzi grabbed 5 Xuanhuang Qi, while Huang Quan Lao Zu only grabbed 1. Although Yun Zhongzi robbed a lot of Xuanhuang Qi, the price was that he was hit by the fatal palm of Huang Quan Patriarch, and was seriously injured and dying. After he robbed the Xuanhuang Qi, he immediately fled to avoid the pursuit of Huang Quan Patriarch. The so-called most dangerous place is the safest place. After several twists and turns, Yun Zhongzi finally sneaked into the back mountain of Yungizeng, and found a hidden place to hide. Huang Quan Patriarch never dreamed that Yun Zhongzi would hide under his nose. After searching for many years without success, he finally gave up. But Yun Zhongzi was also too seriously injured to be cured. Even if he got 5 Xuanhuang Qi, he could not bear the terrifying power of Xuanhuang Qi, so he could not absorb it. At that time, he had already realized that, even if he escaped the pursuit of Huang Quan Patriarch, he could only hide in this place and wait for death. After some enlightenment in his heart, Yun Zhongzi decided to use the last time of his life to perfect a magical power he had created in the past. This magical power is the hard work of his life. According to him, the height of this magical power has completely surpassed the limit of his realm at that time. This is a magical power sent by God, but it was completed by him. In the end, Yun Zhongzi hid in the Yunji Ui sect for 30 years and finally perfected this magical power. The magical power is called Yin and Yang. This is a magical power that relies on the power of cause and effect to kill people. When he heard this, Lu Chuan was extremely shocked. The power of cause and effect is one of the most fundamental powers in the universe. It is extremely mysterious. It can be said that everything exists in cause and effect, and none can escape. And this kind of mysterious thing, even the great power of the crossing tribulation period may not be able to touch it. Yun Zhangzi is only in the nascent soul period, but he has mastered the power of cause and effect, and even created a magical power because of it. No wonder he himself said that this is a magical power sent by God, but it was created through him. There is nothing fancy about yin and yang. Once it is performed, it directly points to cause and effect. The selected target will be instantly cut off from all cause and effect, turning into nothingness and dying. Moreover, the use of this magical power has no realm restrictions. Lu Chuan is at the 5th level of the Golden Core realm, so even if he uses the giant karma on a powerful person in the nascent soul stage, it will still work. The powerful person who is hit by the giant karma will die instantly, which is against the will of heaven. However, there is a condition for the use of this against the sky magical power, that is, the person who uses the magical power will bear part of the cause and effect of the target person. This part of the cause and effect is usually the thing that the target person most desires to complete before his death. After the death of the target person, the person who uses the magical power must complete this most desired thing for the target person, and there will be a time limit so that the cause and effect can be considered to be resolved, otherwise he will still be entangled by the cause and effect and die a miserable death. The higher the realm of the target person, the more terrifying the cause and effect that the person who uses the magical power needs to bear. Once the realm gap is too large, the person who uses the magical power cannot bear the cause and effect of the target person. Not only can he not kill the other party, but will be backfired by the cause and effect and die on the spot. Lu Chuan originally thought that the magical power created by Yun Zhangzi, who was only in the nascent soul stage, was definitely extraordinary, but it was estimated that it was not that powerful. But after listening to the introduction of giant karma, he was completely shocked. This is simply a magical power that shakes the world and makes ghosts cry. If he can master this magical power, he will not be afraid of the Great Elder, even the Huangquan Patriarch. Of course, the disadvantages of being involved in cause and effect are also great. As long as it is used, it will inevitably bear part of the cause and effect of the target person. In case the target person wants to do something that is against the will of heaven and earth, Lu Chuan must do it, otherwise he will die of cause and effect, not to mention that there are many things that are impossible to accomplish. Once the cause and effect of the target person is something that is impossible to accomplish, it will only delay his own death. Therefore, this magical power can only be used when it is absolutely necessary, otherwise every time it is used, it will be a life and death gamble. Lu Chuan felt that Yun Zhangzi was really a rare talent in the cultivation world. He could actually master the power of cause and effect in the nascent soul stage, which was really against the will of heaven. However, it may be precisely because he was too against the will of heaven and was envied by heaven that he fell into a situation where he was bound to die. Relying on the cause and effect, Yun Zhangzi was absolutely sure to kill Huangquan Patriarch, but at that time he was already dying, not to mention using his magical powers. He even had no strength to climb up the cliff. So he left a will, controlled the 5 Zuan Huang key with the lotus treasure platform, and placed it above his hiding place. At that time, he already knew that Huangquan Patriarch had left the sect for a long time and had no news, so he was not worried that Huangquan Patriarch would come to take the 5 Zuan Huang key away. He knew that with the characteristics of Zuan Huang key, it would not take long for the area under the cliff to become a dead place. The people of the Yunji Ui sect would definitely regard this place as a forbidden area, and those who could be sent here could only be the enemies of the Yunji Ui sect. Having a grudge against the Yunji Ui sect, and being able to successfully survive under the terrifying airflow formed by Zuan Huang Qi were the conditions for him to select the destined person. In addition to leaving behind this magical power that he had created with all his life's efforts, Yun Zhangzi also left behind a copper piece that recorded the clues to the birth of a divine fire called the Sun True Fire. As for the Lotus treasure platform, it was a treasure that Yun Zhangzi had worked so hard to obtain. It contained a lot of vitality and had the characteristic of restraining the Zuan Huang Qi. It was because of the existence of this Lotus treasure platform that Yun Zhangzi was able to snatch the 5 Zuan Huang Qi. At that time, Yun Zhangzi judged that he had not much time left because the vitality contained in the Lotus treasure platform could not heal his injuries. and he was able to survive for 30 years after being seriously injured, relying on the vitality in the Lotus treasure platform. Yun Zhangzi said at the end of his will that if someone could come here alive, he could take away the magical powers and treasures he left behind, but the prerequisite was to help him kill Huangquan Patriarch and avenge him. Lu Chuan originally thought that Yun Zhangzi's idea was a bit too naive. After all, he was dead. Even if someone took away the magical powers and treasures and didn't help him avenge, he could do nothing. But the last part of the will shocked Lu Chuan. Yun Zhangzi also knew that he could not control the character of the person who came to take away his magical powers and treasures, whether he could agree to his conditions, and even that the person who found his relics might be from the Yingui sect. But he was not worried that no one would avenge him, because he had integrated the power of cause and effect into the things he left behind. As long as you take the things here, you must bear the cause and effect of avenging Yun Zhangzi. Otherwise even the most powerful people will suffer from the backlash of cause and effect and die a bad death. This is also the reason why Yun Zhangzi is not worried that Huangquan Patriarch will come back and take away the Zuan Huang Qi. Once Huangquan Patriarch takes away the Zuan Huang Qi, he must bear the cause and effect of killing himself. At that time, no matter whether he kills himself or not, the final result will only be death. Lu Chuan showed a bitter smile on his face. He had absorbed all 5 Zuan Huang Qi, which meant that he had already borne the cause and effect of Yun Zhangzi. So now he only has one choice left, which is to avenge Yun Zhangzi. Fortunately, he and Huangquan Patriarch had a feud, so it was not a big deal to bear this cause and effect. Moreover, the things left by Yun Zhangzi were too rich for him, so it was only natural for him to avenge him. Of course, with Lu Chuan's current strength, he certainly could not kill Huangquan Patriarch. He could only consider it after he became stronger in the future. Fortunately, there was no time limit in Yun Zhangzi's cause and effect, otherwise Lu Chuan would have a headache. He walked to the stone table and reached out to take the secret book. As soon as his hand touched the cover of the secret book turned into a stream of light and entered his mind. All the information about the cause and effect was engraved in Lu Chuan's memory. He roughly browsed it and found that, although this magical power was against the sky, it was also very difficult to learn it. But it was better to have it than not. Once it was learned, it would become his most terrifying trump card. Then he picked up the copper piece again, observed it for a while, and didn't see anything special, then bowed to Yun Zhangzi's corpse. "Senior, I will take the responsibility of avenging you. Don't worry, when I'm strong enough, I will kill Huangquan Patriarch and let you rest in peace." He then stretched his muscles and showed a playful smile on his face. Next, it's time to settle accounts with those bastards of the Yingui sect. Chapter 317, the Yingui sect's trump card. On the training ground of the Yingui sect, Zhang Kangan and the people of the supervisory department have been fighting with the people of the Yingui sect for 2 days. At this moment, both sides have reached the stage of exhaustion, but it is obvious that the supervisory department has the upper hand. Zhang Kangan and Yun Changsheng exchanged dozens of moves again. After a palm strike, the two retreated to the back. "Yen Shangsheng, your Yingui sect is already at the end of its strength. I advise you not to resist stubbornly. Surrender immediately is your best choice." Zhang Kangan shouted. Yen Shangsheng snorted coldly and cursed. "If it weren't for the shameless people of your supervisory department who launched a sneak attack with the strength of my Yingui sect, why should we be afraid of you people?" Originally, after he took the video of Lu Chuan being pushed into the soul-destroying pool, he planned to go to Xuanzang to find the Great Elder to claim the credit, but before he left, he ran into the people of the supervisory department who came to kill him. Because they had no preparation in advance, they were caught off guard. As the leader of the sect, he naturally couldn't get away, and he also had to contain Zhang Kangan, who was also in the 7th level of the Zuan realm, otherwise the Yingui sect would definitely lose. Fortunately, in a hurry, he still arranged for someone to escape from the sect and go to the elder for help. Zhang Kangan squinted his eyes and looked at Yin Changsheng. Although their chances of winning were great in the current situation, if they continued to fight, their casualties would definitely be very serious. As a responsible captain, He naturally hoped that the people of the Yingui sect would surrender directly so that their losses could be smaller. At this time, a figure quickly ran towards Yin Shangsheng. It was the person who was sent to ask the elder for help. Yin Shangsheng's eyes lit up when he saw this man, and he quickly asked, "How is it? Has the great elder sent anyone to support us?" The man said helplessly. The great elder said that Xuanzang is a famous and upright sect, and they are irreconcilable with our evil sect, the Yingui sect. It is impossible for them to help us, especially if the supervisory department takes action. As the great elder of Xuanzang, he cannot get involved in this matter. Yin Shangsheng cursed. What a hypocritical old thing. When he asked us to help him, he never considered that he was a famous and upright sect. As a result, when we encountered problems and asked him for help, he actually directly cut off ties with us. I have seen the true face of this old fox. Elder Xuan came over. After 2 days of fighting, he was exhausted and his breath was weak. "Master, if there is no help, we will definitely lose if this goes on." Yin Shangsheng took a deep breath and said, "Since that old thing is unwilling to help us, then we will solve it ourselves. We still have the talisman left in the soul snatching pool, as well as the sect protection formation." Hearing this, Elder Xuan's expression became extremely solemn, and he said, "Master, once we use these 2 trump cards, there will be no way out." Yin Shangsheng snorted coldly and said, "Even if we die with them, it is better than being captured by them." Without hesitation, he took out 10 special talismans from his clothes. This talisman is a talisman for summoning ghosts and gods. It is a very powerful talisman recorded in the inheritance of the Yingui sect. However, it is a bit cruel to cast it. It requires a human body as a carrier and consumes flesh and blood to complete the summoning. Moreover, the strength of the summoned ghosts and gods is random, which may be very strong or very weak. Yin Shangsheng modified this talisman. He felt that instead of summoning ghosts and gods whose strength was uncertain, it would be better to directly summon the terrifying airflow in the soul-destroying pool. After all, even a strong man of the level of the Great Elder cannot contend with this airflow. If this airflow is summoned during the battle, it will definitely kill everyone. So after painstaking research, he finally changed this talisman into a talisman for summoning terrifying airflow, but the price is still to consume flesh and blood. It was because the price was too high that he took out the talismans at the last moment. Without hesitation, Yin Shangsheng swept through the remaining disciples of the Yingui sect, picked out 10 dying people, and used Yuan Qi to gather them together. These 10 people all had a sense of uneasiness. One of them, who had seen the horror of the talisman in Yin Shangsheng's hand, knelt down and begged for mercy. "Master, please let us go." Yin Shangsheng looked indifferent and said lightly, "Your sacrifice will be remembered forever in the sect. You are the glory of the Yingui sect." After that, the 10 talismans in his hand turned into streams of light and stuck to the bodies of the 10 people. The person who had just begged for mercy was about to tear off the talisman, but the next second, he was wrapped in a blood-colored force, and then his flesh and blood began to be eroded by the blood-colored force. After a while, he turned into a terrifying and hideous mummy. The rest of the people were in the same situation as him, and they let out tragic wails. Zhang Kangan frowned upon seeing this, and quickly ordered the people from the supervisory department to retreat. "Everyone be careful. This method doesn't look simple. It may be a killer move. Everyone, use all your strength to resist." Yin Shangsheng sneered and said, "You can't resist my method. Even if your strength has reached the 9th level of the transformation realm, you will definitely not be able to resist the terrifying airflow that will be released later." After the blood and flesh of the 10 people were drained by the blood-colored power, they slowly formed a complex formation diagram, pointing to Zhang Kangan and his group. Everyone felt that something terrifying seemed to be brewing in the formation diagram, and once released, they would face a desperate situation of life and death. Yuzhen ran to Zhang Kangan with a frightened face and said, "Brother Yun, what is this thing? It feels so scary. What should we do?" Zhang Kangan frowned and said, "This should be the last resort of the Yingui sect." Yin Shangsheng did not hesitate to use the lives of the Yingui sect disciples as a medium to perform this trick. Its power must be extraordinary. We can only bite the bullet and resist it. He turned his head to glance at the people behind him and shouted, "Everyone listen up. Form a formation." Everyone immediately began to stand in specific positions and then released all their strength to form a huge defensive formation, gathering all their strength together to resist the danger released by these horrible talisman powers. Yan Shangsheng sneered at this and said, "Do you think you can resist the power of those terrifying air currents in the soul-destroying pool? You are still too naive." Elder Zuan smiled and said, "As long as those air currents are summoned, these people will be eroded cleanly in an instant, and even their bodies will not be left. Although 10 disciples have been sacrificed, it is worth it to be able to save the sect." Elder Ming said with some concern, "But after those air currents are summoned, we have no way to deal with them. I'm afraid that the martial arts training ground will have to be classified as a forbidden area of the sect in the future." Zhang Kangan looked at the confident faces of Yan Changsheng and the two elders Zuan Ming and felt a little worried. "I want to see how powerful your methods are to make you so confident." Yan Changsheng snorted coldly, changed his hand gestures, and then shouted, "Release." The blood red formation diagram immediately aimed at everyone in the supervisory department. A strong wind appeared and blew towards Zhang Kangan. Chapter 318, Sect Protection Formation. Zhang Kangan gritted his teeth and released his strength to the limit, intending to fight desperately to resist the things that might appear from the formation diagram. The next second, a terrifying aura descended, and then an airflow with a living being that could corrode everything appeared, rushing towards Zhang Kangan and others. Yan Shangsheng showed an excited smile on his face. "You all wait to die." However, as soon as he finished speaking, the airflow began to dissipate. When it reached Zhang Kangan, only a soft breeze was left, blowing on his face, which was quite comfortable. Zhang Kangan was confused, thinking that this was not the last resort of the NGUI sect, and even 10 disciples were sacrificed before it was used, but the result was only this little power. He looked up at Yan Changsheng and shouted, "Yan Changsheng, you are kidding me, right?" Yan Changsheng was also stunned at this moment, muttering, How could this happen? Where is the airflow of the soul-snatching pool?" The two elders of Zuan Ming also frowned, never expecting that their trump card would go wrong. Yan Shangsheng activated the formation diagram again, and then another wisp of air appeared, but it soon dissipated and turned into an ordinary wind without any destructive power. How is this possible? I have done so many experiments before, and each time it was successful. Why did these airflows fail at this critical moment? He never dreamed that the Zuan Huan Qi in the soul-slaying pool had been absorbed by Lu Chuan, and those airflows had lost their foundation and naturally lost the terrifying corrosive power of the past. Zhang Kangan scolded Yan Changsheng. "Yan Changsheng, what are you doing here? You have been tinkering for a long time just to blow us wind." Yan Shangsheng's face was as hen. He didn't understand what was going on, but he was sure that the airflow of the soul-slaying pool could not help them fight against the people of the supervisory department, and the 10 disciples died in vain. He looked at Zhang Kangan with gnashing teeth and said angrily, "It seems that even God is helping you, but don't think that this is a last resort. My NGUI sect still has a protective formation passed down from generation to generation. Once the protective formation is activated, you will still be dead." Elder Zuan said solemnly, "Sect Master, think twice. The protective formation is already in ruins. It can only be activated once, and then it will fall apart. By then, the foundation of my NGUI sect will be shaken, and we will no longer have the opportunity to expand the sect." This protective formation was personally refined by ancestor Huangguan, and it has been passed down for hundreds of years. The reason why the NGUI sect can develop here is relying on the yin qi gathered by the protective formation. Once the protective formation falls apart, it will become more difficult for them to absorb yin qi to practice in the future. Yan Shangsheng snorted coldly, "If we don't activate the sect protection formation, we will all die at the hands of the people from the supervisory department. By then, we will all be dead. What's the point of this sect protection formation?" Elder Zuan was helpless. He knew that it was a critical moment for survival and he couldn't care too much. He and Elder Ming looked at each other and immediately released their power to help Yan Changsheng activate the sect protection formation. Yan Changsheng was filled with yin qi and quickly injected into the ground. After a while, complex array patterns appeared on the ground, forming a gloomy formation that enveloped the entire NGUI sect. For a while, The entire martial arts training ground was filled with yin qi, ghosts crying and wolves howling, like purgatory on earth. Zhang Kangyan's face changed wildly, feeling the threat brought by the sect protection formation. Those talismans just now may be a joke, but the power of this sect protection formation must not be underestimated. Yen Shangsheng stood in the center of the formation, his eyes filled with yin qi, and the whole person was like a ghost possessed. His breath continued to rise, and it was much stronger than before. The two elders Zhu and Ming also used the power of the sect protection formation to recover all their previous consumption and greatly improve their strength. Be prepared to die. The three of them controlled the sect protection formation at the same time. The entire sky was instantly covered by countless ghosts, and its scale was many times larger than the 10,000 ghosts formation. The terrifying pressure descended, and the defensive formation formed by the people in the supervision department was instantly broken. Most people fell directly to the ground, spitting blood, and fell into weakness. Even Zhang Kangyan couldn't stand this terrifying pressure. After his defense was broken, he stepped back a few steps and spit out blood. Yuzin came to Zhang Kangyan with a weak breath, and said in horror, "Brother Yun, this formation is too terrifying. Do we have any way to resist it?" Zhang Kangyan looked solemn and said, "Yin Changsheng is using the momentum of destroying the Yin Gui sect to deal with us. This formation is extremely mysterious, and it is simply not something that people at our level can resist. I'm afraid we will all die here this time." Yuzin's pupils shrank when he heard this, and then he actually cried, "Didn't you say you would keep me safe? Why has it turned out like this now? I don't care, I want to go home." Zhang Kangyan looked helpless. If he knew that the Yin Gui sect still retained such an ancient protective formation, the higher-ups would not have sent only him, a 7th level Zuan realm cultivator. He turned around and looked at the people in the supervisory department, bowed to everyone, and said with guilt, "Everyone, I'm afraid we don't have a chance to complete this mission. I, Zhang Kangyan, am incompetent and can't lead everyone back. I hope we can still get together in the underworld." Everyone showed despair on their faces, but no one blamed Zhang Kangyan. After all, no one could predict this kind of change. Countless ghosts swept towards the people in the supervisory department. The terrifying sense of oppression alone was enough to make them breathless, and many people even vomited blood. Zhang Kangyan took a deep breath, and was ready to die. He turned his head, and looked at Yuzin and said, "Zaina, it's a blessing for us to die together." Yuzin collapsed and shouted, "Who wants to die with you? I'm still so young, and there are still great years waiting for me. I haven't lived enough." Zhang Kangyan thought that Yuzin would hug him affectionately before she died, but he didn't expect to get such a response, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on his face. "Forget it. We're all going to die anyway. Why worry about it so much?" He sighed, straightened his clothes, and sat cross-legged on the ground, intending to die with dignity. At this moment, another strange power fluctuation appeared. Then, the ghosts in the sky suddenly caught fire. For a moment, the whole world was filled with the miserable wails of ghosts. Then everyone in the supervisory department saw a man with dark golden pupils descending between heaven and earth like a god of war. Chapter 319, Destruction of the Yin Gui sect. With a smile on his face, Lu Chuan looked at the sky burning with raging flames and murmured, "The power of this protective formation is really extraordinary. I think it should be left by the ancestor Huangquan. But fortunately, my Zuanhuang immortal body has been upgraded to the 3rd stage, and the immortal golden pupil has also been enhanced. Otherwise, there is no way to fight against so many ghosts." When Yin Changsheng saw Lu Chuan who suddenly appeared, his face changed drastically and he exclaimed, "You are still alive. How is this possible?" The two Zhu and Ming elders were shocked, as if they had seen a ghost, and their expressions became extremely wonderful. Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Thanks to you, not only did I not die, but my strength has also been greatly improved. From now on, the soul-snatching pool of your Yin Gui sect will become history." Yen Shangsheng frowned and said, "My talisman can't summon the airflow of the soul-snatching pool. Is it you who did it? What did you do in the soul-snatching pool?" Lu Chuan said lightly, "I found the inheritance left by the masters there, obtained top treasures, and greatly improved my strength. It's a pity that your Yin-Gui sect has established a sect here for hundreds of years, but you didn't get these benefits. You have been keeping this great opportunity for me for hundreds of years. I really have to thank you." Yin Shangsheng gritted his teeth angrily and said angrily, "Stop talking nonsense here. Even if you survived under the soul snatching pool, now that my Yin-Gui sect's protective formation is activated, you will definitely not survive." Lu Chuan pointed to the sky that was like a sea of fire and said with a smile, "Why, didn't you see the power of my immortal golden pupil? Do you think this protective formation can stop me?" Yin Shangsheng's pupil stagnated, and he said coldly, "Even so, the three of us have also raised our strength to the top with the protective formation. I don't believe that you, a 5th level Zuan realm, can defeat the three of us together." He turned his head and looked at the two Zuanming elders and ordered, "Go together, don't hold back, you must kill him." The two Zuanming elders nodded, and the three of them quickly surrounded Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan did not dare to neglect it. The King Jiao sword appeared in his hand and fought with the three people. Not far away, everyone in the supervisory department was watching this scene in disbelief. They didn't expect that, just when they thought they were in a desperate situation, someone would fall from the sky, not only resisting the power of the protective formation, but also fighting the leader and two elders of the Yin-Gui sect alone. This person is simply the savior in their minds. Is this person a backup arranged by our headquarters? He suddenly appeared to save the situation just now. So handsome. He doesn't look like one of ours. If there is such a person in the supervisory department, he should have been famous long ago. Listening to his conversation with Yin Shangsheng just now, he should have had a grudge with the Yin-Gui sect. We were saved by him by chance. No matter what, this brother saved all of us. Our supervisory department owes him a favor. Zhang Kangan didn't expect that when he was desperate, someone would stand up and fight against the Yin-Gui sect's protective formation. He could feel that this person's realm was only the 5th level of the Zuan realm, but the combat power displayed by the other party was completely incomparable to the 5th level of the Zuan realm. Just one move of the pupil technique made the countless ghosts summoned by the Yin-Gui sect's protective formation burn up. Even he couldn't do this. I don't know who this brother who helped out is. If I can survive this time, I will definitely thank him. Yuzin, who was standing next to him, was stunned at the moment, looking unbelievable. Lu Chuan, how did he get here? Zhang Kangan was surprised. He turned to look at Yuzin and asked, "This person is Lu Chuan? Didn't you say that he is an uneducated and corrupt scum? But why do I feel that he is elegant and righteous, a hero among millions?" Yuzin was embarrassed and said, You feel wrong." Zhang Kangan was suspicious, but at this time he did not have time to dwell on Yuzin's evaluation of Lu Chuan, but looked at everyone in the supervisory office and shouted, "Everyone listen to my order. We can't let this suddenly appearing hero fight alone. Anyone who still has the ability to fight, follow me immediately and kill the Yin-Gui sect's gang of evil demons on the spot." Everyone regained their fighting spirit because of the appearance of Lu Chuan, and they all followed Zhang Kangan with excitement. Yuzin still looked at Lu Chuan, who was fighting with the leader of the Yin-Gui sect and two elders, in disbelief. Although she knew that Lu Chuan's growth rate was amazing, it was still within her understanding before. Now this guy has suddenly grown to the point where he can turn the tide against the Yin-Gui sect alone. Even if she found Zhang Kangan as her boyfriend, she could clearly feel at this time that Lu Chuan and she were not from the same world at all. Lu Chuan fought fiercely with Yin Shangsheng and the two elders of Zuanming, relying on the suppression of Yin Qi by the immortal golden pupil. Even if Yin Shangsheng and the other two recovered their strength with the help of the sect protection formation, Lu Chuan could still fight with them with ease. Moreover, after the Zuanhuang immortal body was upgraded to the 3rd stage, Lu Chuan could already ignore the ordinary moves of the three people hitting him. He relied on his strong body and often took the move of exchanging injuries for injuries. Often his moves could cause considerable damage to the opponent, while the moves of Yin Shangsheng and the other two hit Lu Chuan, and they were not even tickled. Relying on this, he had the confidence to challenge three people at the same time. Otherwise, if the three people found any flaws, he would have been beaten to a pulp. How could this kid's body be so strong? Our moves had no effect on him, but his sword hurt us. If this continues, we will be exhausted to death sooner or later. Elder Ming said with a grim face. Yin Shangsheng gritted his teeth and said, at this point, I can only use that move. Although doing so will damage my life essence, I have no choice but to do so in order to get rid of this kid. The two elders Zhu and Ming were shocked. Elder Zhuan said, Master, do you really want to use that move? Yin Shangsheng snorted coldly, don't talk nonsense, inject all your strength into my body. The two elders Zhu and Ming looked at each other and knew that Yin Shangsheng had made up his mind to die, so they didn't hesitate and injected all their strength into Yin Shangsheng's body. The yin qi around Yin Shangsheng suddenly surged, reaching an extremely terrifying level. Lu Chuan raised his eyebrows when he saw his changes. Without hesitation, he immediately injected power into the King Jiao sword and slashed at Yin Shangsheng without saying a word. The sword energy slashed at Yin Shangsheng, but was directly resolved by him. Boy, don't waste your energy. I will never stop this move once I perform it. No matter how powerful you are, you will never be able to withstand the power of this move. Yin Shangsheng sneered. Lu Chuan pondered for a moment and asked, if I make you three idiots temporarily, can I interrupt the performance of this move? Yin Shangsheng was stunned for a moment. Before he could react to what Lu Chuan meant, he felt his mind begin to tremble. Inexplicable pain came, and Yin Shangsheng had to stop performing that move. The two elders of Zhu and Ming also covered their heads and showed painful expressions. Obviously, Lu Chuan used the method of the immortal golden pupil to shock the mind. Seeing that his method was effective on Yin Shangsheng and the other two, Lu Chuan did not hesitate and immediately performed the Kinglian sword technique. Endless sword energy swept towards Yin Shangsheng and the other two. Yin Shangsheng and the other two were still immersed in the pain of their trembling hearts and minds and had no idea that danger had come. After a while, Yin Shangsheng got rid of the pain of his trembling hearts and minds and was about to continue to perform that move. However, he only felt a chill on his neck, and the next second, he saw the heads of the two Zhu and Ming elders flying up, and his vision began to spin. Then he felt his head rolling on the ground, and after a long time, the scene in front of him stopped. He saw his body. However, the head of that body had disappeared, and a column of blood was gushing out from the neck. After that, his consciousness began to dissipate, until he fell into endless darkness. Lu Chuan watched the three people being beheaded by his Kinglian sword technique, and he breathed a sigh of relief, muttering, what a pity, they only talk about this move and that move, and I don't know what the move is called. Now I don't even have a chance to ask. Zhang Kangan rushed over here. He originally wanted to help Lu Chuan deal with Yin Shangsheng and the other two, but as soon as he got here, he saw that the heads of Yin Shangsheng and the other two were chopped off by Lu Chuan, and he gasped in shock. He killed a Xuanjing 7th level and two Xuanjing 6th level by himself. And judging from his age, he seems to be younger than me. Lu Chuan turned his head and looked at Zhang Kangan and asked, are you from the supervisory department? Zhang Kangan came back to his senses and nodded quickly. Yes, I'm Zhang Kangan, the captain of the 3rd soul hunting team of the supervisory department. Are you Lu Chuan? Lu Chuan was a little surprised. Do you know me? Zhang Kangan said, my girlfriend knows you. He stretched out his hand and pointed in the direction of Yuzin. Lu Chuan turned his head and looked over. When he saw that Zhang Kangan's girlfriend was Yuzin, his eyes widened. How dare you let this stupid woman be your girlfriend? You are so bold. He reached out and patted Zhang Kangan on the shoulder, his face full of sympathy. Zhang Kangan was puzzled and said, why do you say that? By the way, my girlfriend told me before that you have bad behavior and are mean, and asked me to teach you a lesson, but I feel that you are not like what she said. Is there any misunderstanding between you two? Lu Chuan was speechless and said, she actually has the nerve to say that I have bad behavior, and she still has no face at all. Zhang Kangan hurriedly asked, what do you mean? Lu Chuan told some of Yuzin's past deeds. After listening to this, Zhang Kangan's face turned livid, and he gritted his teeth and said, she is such a person. Lu Chuan smiled and said, you take care of yourself. I'm leaving first. After that, he walked towards the inner direction of the Yinji sect. Zhang Kangan wanted to express his gratitude to Lu Chuan, but Lu Chuan had already run away. He turned and walked towards Yuzin. Yuzin was nervous and asked, what did you say to that bastard Luchuan? Don't believe what he says. He is a liar. Zhang Kangan snorted coldly and said, he is a liar. I think you are the liar. Yuzin, let's break up. Don't bother me anymore. Yuzin was anxious and grabbed Zhang Kangan's arm, begging, why? Didn't we agree to be together forever? Zhang Kangan pushed her away and said coldly, that's not what you said when you were facing a life and death crisis. How can people who can't share adversity share happiness? Don't bother me anymore. Yuzin was desperate and burst into tears. Luchuan did not leave the Yunji sect, but ran all the way to the warehouse where the Yunji sect stored the sect's treasures. With experience in the Hehuan sect, he naturally knew what he should do most after destroying this evil sect. The reason why he didn't say too much to Zhang Kangan was because he was afraid that Zhang Kangan would come and snatch the spoils from him. There were countless precious medicinal materials and treasures in the Yunji sect's warehouse, which made Luchuan's eyes light up. He was not polite and directly put all these things into the demon suppression tower. Just when he was about to run away with the spoils, he suddenly noticed that there was a strangely shaped wooden sculpture left on the innermost shelf. His eyes fell on the wooden sculpture, slightly puzzled. He had clearly put all the things into the demon suppression tower just now, and this wooden sculpture obviously avoided the storage of the demon suppression tower on its own. This was the first time he encountered such a thing. What is this? Chapter 320 Return to Jiangbi. Luchuan reached out and took the wood carving in his hand. He observed it carefully and found nothing special. Tower Spirit, do you know what this is? Why is it not stored in the demon suppression tower? The tower spirit said, I can't tell what it is, but there are only two situations where it cannot be stored in the storage space. One is something with life characteristics, and the other is something that has been cast with a magic spell of repelling space. Luchuan stared at the wood carving that looked a bit like a parrot. He felt that this thing was not a living thing, but he couldn't tell whether it was cast with a spell. Brother Luchuan, please show mercy. Although our supervisory department has received a great favor from you, please leave us some spoils of war, otherwise I won't be able to report back. At this time, Zhang Kangan's voice sounded. After hearing this, Luchuan didn't bother to study the wood carving anymore. He flashed and ran away. Zhang Kangan came to the warehouse. It was not long after Luchuan left that he realized that Luchuan was not leaving the Yunji sect, but inside. He realized that Luchuan was most likely looking for resources from the Yunji sect, so he hurried over. When he saw that the entire warehouse had become empty and Luchuan's figure had long disappeared, Zhang Kangan's mouth twitched, and his mood inexplicably became extremely bleak. A secret place in the Yunji sect. Several black-robed men were hiding here and witnessed the whole process of Luchuan beheading Yin Shangsheng and the other two. These black-robed men were none other than the B-level team of law enforcers led by Beihu. After deciding to change the mission and arrest Luchuan, Beihu took his men to Jiangbi and tried to steal some of Luchuan's personal belongings. Then, relying on the unique means of finding people by law enforcers, he confirmed Luchuan's location. Beihu then led his team to the Yunji sect and happened to see the process of the supervisory department's encirclement and suppression of the Yunji sect, as well as the scene of Luchuan descending like a god to turn the tide when the supervisory department was in a desperate situation. At this moment, everyone was immersed in shock and couldn't extricate themselves. Captain, is this Luchuan we want to catch really this Luchuan? Didn't you say that this guy just broke through to the Zuan realm when he was in the island country? But he just killed a Zuan realm 7th layer and 2 Zuan realm 6th layers by himself. Yes, Captain, are we looking for the wrong person? Beihu was also full of disbelief at this moment. She was very sure that the guy who showed terrifying strength just now was the Luchuan she wanted to catch. But she didn't know what this guy had experienced, and he could grow to this point in such a short time. Originally, she was complacent about her ability to reach the Zuan realm 3rd layer in a short time. Now Luchuan's strength gave her a blow, making her realize that her talent was nothing compared to the real monster. That guy is Luchuan. Although his strength is unexpected, he broke the rules and should be caught. Beihu said angrily. With our B-level team, it seems a bit unrealistic to want to catch him. Someone said weakly. Behu's face darkened, and he said stubbornly, then apply for support from the headquarters. The stronger the strength of such an unruly person, the greater the harm to the world. He must be arrested as soon as possible. Everyone was silent for a while. Speaking of which, the Yingui sect is also on the blacklist of our law enforcers. Lu Chuan's destruction of the Yingui sect can be regarded as making up for his mistakes, right? One person said. Behu snorted and said, the Yingui sect only has a few people who have done evil things overseas. After all, they are still under the jurisdiction of the supervisory department. The credit they have made to the supervisory department cannot make up for the mistakes they have made here as law enforcers. At this time, Gal ran over. Captain, I have repaired the video. Behu's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, show me. These days, she has been admiring the hero who eradicated the human trafficker organization more and more. Basically, she fantasizes about what that person looks like every day, and imagines how she will meet this hero in the future. Now seeing that Lu Chuan is so powerful, she feels very unbalanced in her heart, and can only rely on this hero to find comfort. Even if Lu Chuan's strength has surpassed my imagination, he will never be as good as the hero in my mind. Thinking of this, she took the device from Al, and looked at the video. However, when she saw the appearance of the hero who fought against the 3 leaders of the human traffickers in the video, she was dumbfounded. Al smiled and said, Captain, you didn't expect that the hero who got rid of the human traffickers was the one who just destroyed the Yingui sect. This hero is really chivalrous and hates evil. Although he broke the rules of law enforcers before, just eradicating the human traffickers should be enough to make up for his mistakes, right? Do we really have to catch him? Everyone looked at Behu. Behu stared at the figure in the video with an extremely complicated expression, wondering what he was thinking. After a long time, she took a deep breath and ordered, collect the team and return to the headquarters. Jiangbai provincial capital. Lu Chuan walked towards the direction of the supervisory department. After leaving the Yingui sect, he contacted Suming as soon as possible. Suming was also relieved after learning that Lu Chuan was fine. The two settled society and returned to Jiangbai together. After that, Suming continued to fulfill the task of protecting Munanking and Liangongyi and went to the countryside where they were. Lu Chuan no longer hid. With his current strength, even if he faced the Great Elder, even if he couldn't beat him, it would still be no problem for him to escape, so there was no need to hide anymore. Of course, after the destruction of the Yingui sect this time, the Great Elder would definitely regard him as a thorn in his eyes and flesh, and he might take action personally at any time to get rid of this scourge. Therefore, improving his strength is still an urgent matter for him. At the same time, he also met the conditions for separating the embroiderer's nascent soul from Munanking's mind, but he was still struggling whether to use the power of Long Yang to suppress the embroiderer, so he was not in a hurry to deal with this matter. This time he got very rich resources from the Yingui sect, so next he planned to use these resources to retreat for a period of time and improve his strength. But before that, he had to help Han Qingxi solve the peach blossom wine. After many twists and turns, he finally got the antidote for the peach blossom wine, and finally it was time for Han Qingxi to return to normal. The reason why he was walking towards the supervisory department now was that he wanted to take Zanlinger with him to find Han Qingxi. After all, he had promised Zanlinger that he would find the antidote for the peach blossom wine and return Han Qingxi to her. So at this important moment, Zanlinger naturally had to be present. All the way to the door of the supervisory department, Lu Chuan felt a little strange in his heart, and he always felt as if someone was watching him. He turned his head and looked around, but did not find anything unusual. Illusion? Lu Chuan felt a little suspicious, thinking that he was in front of the supervisory department. Even if there were people with bad intentions, they would not dare to act rashly in such a place, so he didn't care, and walked into the supervisory department. Not long after he entered, a figure appeared in a dark corner not far away. The person's face was covered by a hood, so his features could not be seen clearly, but from his figure, it could be seen that this was a woman. She looked in the direction of the supervisory department, gave a charming and seductive laugh, and then retreated into the shadows and disappeared, as if she had never appeared. Inside the supervisory department, Lu Chuan walked all the way to the courtyard specially used for the head of the supervisory department to live. At this time, Zhang Xianyuan was practicing in the yard. When he saw Lu Chuan, his eyes lit up, and he walked over with a smile and said, "Lu Chuan, the fact that you single-handedly cut off the heads of the leader of the Yunji Ui sect and the 2 elders of Zuanming has been discussed a lot in our supervision department. I really didn't expect that you could grow to this level in such a short time. It's really amazing." Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Senior Zhang, you are flattering me. I came to find Linga today. I wonder if she is here?" Zhang Xianyuan smiled and said, "Yes, she has been talking about you to me all this time. I will ask someone to call her over." Lu Chuan bowed his hands and said, "Sorry to bother you, Senior Zhang." In Zhang Linga's room, Zhang Linga was lying on the bedboard, writing a novel on her mobile phone. She is a well-known writer on the lesbian novel website. She has written many love stories between girls in the past. It's just that her latest novel has been changed into a normal love story between men and women. Her heroine has always used her own name, and the hero of the novel she is writing is named Lu Chuan. At this moment, she is writing about the hero and heroine who accidentally fall into a cave. The hero goes crazy because of problems with his martial arts and urgently needs to have sex with a woman. The heroine can't bear to see the hero suffer and finally makes up her mind to sacrifice herself. When she wrote this paragraph, her face turned red and her breathing became much more rapid. Because the censorship standards of the website where she published the novel were very broad, she wrote the process of the heroine rescuing the hero in great detail, as if she had experienced it herself. "Miss." At this time, a shout rang out, and a maid ran into her room. Zhang Linga immediately hid her phone in panic, then sat up from the bed and said coldly, "Didn't I tell you to knock on the door before entering my room?" The maid said excitedly, "Mr. Lu Chuan is here." Zhang Linga heard this, her eyes lit up, and she quickly stood up. "Really?" The maid nodded. "He is chatting with the head in the front yard." Zhang Linga couldn't help but smile. This bastard finally knew to come to me. She was about to go out immediately, but on second thought, she retreated back, ran to the dressing mirror, applied her favorite lipstick, and tidied her hairstyle. After making sure she looked like a fairy, she walked towards the front yard. She came to the front yard happily, and after seeing Lu Chuan, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. At this time, Lu Chuan looked over at her and greeted her with a smile. "Linga." Seeing this, Zhang Linga quickly crossed her arms, then put on a stern face, pretending to hate Lu Chuan, and said, "What are you doing here? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 321 Drink the Antidote. Lu Chuan looked at Zhang Linga with a helpless look on his face and said, "I have something to talk to you about." Seeing this, Zhang Xianyuan smiled and said, "You young people can chat. I'm going to deal with things first." Then he left. Only Lu Chuan and Zhang Linga were left in the yard. Lu Chuan looked at Zhang Linga and said, "Didn't you say you wouldn't blame me? Why are you still so stern when you see me?" Zhang Linga snorted, thinking of what happened in her house last time. Her face couldn't help but blush, and said, "Women are fickle, isn't it?" Lu Chuan shrugged and said, "Well, I had another good news to tell you, but from the look of you, you probably don't want to listen. I'm leaving first." After that, he turned around and was about to leave. "You." Seeing this, Zhang Linga stamped her feet in anger, and then quickly chased after Lu Chuan and dragged him back. Lu Chuan's mouth curled up in a playful laugh, thinking to himself, "Little guy, I can't control you anymore." He pretended to look at Zhang Linga in confusion and asked, "What are you doing? Don't you want to see me? Why are you still pulling me?" Zhang Linga looked aggrieved and said, I was joking with you, but you just know how to bully me." Lu Chuan's eyes widened. He thought that according to Zhang Linga's character, she would definitely be stubborn and not give him a good face, but now this girl actually admitted her weakness in front of him. He looked Zhang up and down, his face full of curiosity. Zhang was embarrassed to be looked at, lowered her head, and blushed and said, "Why are you staring at me?" Lu Chuan said, "It shouldn't be. Why do I feel that you are a little different from the past?" Zhang shyly put her hair behind her ears and asked, "What's different?" Lu Chuan said, "I don't know. Anyway, there is a feeling that I can't explain." Zhang thought to herself, "Why are you so stupid? The difference is of course my feeling about you. I like you, can't you see it?" She snorted proudly and asked, "Tell me, what do you want from me?" Lu Chuan returned to the topic and said with a smile, "I got the antidote for peach blossom wine. I promised you before that I would find the antidote for peach blossom wine and restore King Ci to normal. Now I'm here to fulfill my promise." He felt that Zhang would be very happy to hear the news. But Zhang face drooped instantly, and she just replied coldly, "Oh." Lu Chuan was a little surprised. "Shouldn't you be happy? After King Ci drinks the antidote, you two can continue to be together. I came to you because I wanted to feed King Ci the antidote with you." Zhang stared at Lu Chuan and said, "King Ci and I have officially broken up. Even if she drinks the antidote, it is completely over between us, so there is no need for you to come to me." Lu Chuan frowned and asked, "Did King Ci ask you to break up?" "She was poisoned by peach blossom wine, so." Zhang interrupted him, "I proposed it." Lu Chuan's face was full of surprise. "Why? Could it be because of me?" Zhang looked at Lu Chuan with a flash in her eyes, bit her lip and said, "Yes, it's because of you. If you still don't understand what I mean, you are a big fool." Lu Chuan's face was immediately filled with self-blame. He thought that Zhang broke up with him because she had sex with him and she harbored a grudge against him. "I'm sorry." Zhang got anxious and said, "Why are you apologizing to me?" Lu Chuan was puzzled and said, "Didn't you break up with King Ci because of the things that happened between us and you harbored a grudge against him?" Zhang said angrily, "Of course not." Lu Chuan was stunned and asked, "Then why?" Zhang snorted and said, "Because I've fallen in love with someone else." Lu Chuan widened his eyes and asked, "Have you fallen in love with another girl again?" Zhang was so angry that she wanted to strangle this guy to death. She had shown it so obviously. Could this bastard really not see it? She gritted her teeth and said, Zhang like Lu Chuan. Did you hear me clearly?" Lu Chuan was shocked and looked at Zhang in disbelief. Then he reached out and touched her forehead and asked, "Do you have a fever?" Zhang grabbed Lu Chuan's arm, opened her mouth and bit it. Lu Chuan screamed in pain. It hurts, auntie, please be gentle." Zhang let go of Lu Chuan's arm, looked at the neat teeth marks on it, and nodded with satisfaction. Lu Chuan rubbed his arm, and looked at Zhang and asked, "Linga, you are not kidding me, are you?" Zhang was so angry that she couldn't believe it. "Yes, I was kidding you. How could I like a bastard like you?" she shouted angrily. Lu Chuan breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I told you that you like girls. Even if you broke up with King Ci, you shouldn't like me. In this case, I'll go find King Ci by myself. Calm down. I'm leaving first." After saying that, he turned and left without stopping. Zhang was dumbfounded. Does he really not understand me, or is he pretending? I just said something so obviously sarcastic. Can't he hear it? Outside the supervisory office, after Lu Chuan came out, he breathed a sigh of relief quietly. Of course, he could hear that Zhang was speaking in a sarcastic way, but he didn't quite believe that this girl would fall in love with him. It is said that there is a symptom in psychology called Stockholm Syndrome, which talks about the symptoms of people who are hurt falling in love with the people who hurt them for various reasons. Speaking of which, I have also hurt Linga. Could she have this symptom? Well, let's go and give King Ci the antidote first. Without any hesitation, Lu Chuan hurried to the side of the road to get a taxi and rushed towards the Han Han's mansion. Lu Chuan came to the yard and asked the servant to inform Han King Ci that he was here. After a while, Han King Ci, wearing a floral dress, ran over with a happy face. She hugged Lu Chuan and said affectionately, "Brother Lu Chuan, I miss you so much. I have listened to you during this period and practiced the skills you taught me well. Now I'm already a master of the realm of transformation. Lu Chuan smiled and said, it seems that the innate spiritual body's talent for cultivation is also strong. In such a short time, you have reached the realm of transformation. I don't know how many geniuses will envy you to death. Han Qingxi looked up at Lu Chuan and said flatteringly. Then Qingxi listened to brother Lu Chuan and practiced obediently. Does brother Lu Chuan like Qingxi more? Hearing this question, Lu Chuan felt a sense of emotion in his heart. Although Han Qingxi's love for him was an illusion caused by peach blossoms, this girl still added a lot of fun to him during this period. Thinking that the other party would return to normal soon, he was actually a little reluctant. However, this kind of false feelings is ultimately a kind of harm to Han Qingxi. He can't just let this girl be forced to like him. He didn't answer Han Qingxi's words, but said, Qingxi, I have a good thing for you. Han Qingxi's eyes lit up and said, what is it? As long as it is given by brother Lu Chuan, Qingxi will like it. Lu Chuan took out the antidote for peach blossom wine, handed it to Han Qingxi, and said, this is a drink I specially prepared for you. You try it. Han Qingxi took it, opened it and smelled it, and then immediately gave it back to Lu Chuan, saying, I don't want to taste it. Lu Chuan was puzzled and asked, why? Han Qingxi said, I don't know why. I always feel that this thing is not very good. If I drink it, I will lose the favor of brother Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan frowned, thinking that peach blossom wine is so powerful that it can make people resist drinking the antidote. He coughed lightly and said, Qingxi, you are wrong. This is what I prepared for you. If you don't drink it, it will be a waste of my kindness. Han Qingxi shook her head and said, then I won't drink it either. She put her arm around Lu Chuan's arm, looked at Lu Chuan eagerly, and asked, brother Lu Chuan, do you not want Qingxi again? So you let me drink this strange thing and abandon me? Qingxi has been very obedient. Isn't this enough to make brother Lu Chuan like Qingxi? Lu Chuan sighed helplessly, thinking about how to coax Han Qingxi to drink the antidote. At this time, Zhang Linga suddenly came over and said, he will never like you, and your love for him is just an illusion. If you drink it, this illusion will naturally dissipate. Lu Chuan was surprised, looked at Zhang Linga, and said, aren't you not coming? Zhang Linga snorted and ignored Lu Chuan. If I don't come, how can I ensure that Qingxi will not become my rival in love in the future? Han Qingxi frowned and looked at Zhang Linga, saying, Linga, what nonsense are you talking about? My love for brother Lu Chuan comes from the bottom of my heart. You can't destroy the relationship between me and brother Lu Chuan just because we broke up, right? Zhang Linga took the antidote from Lu Chuan and said, drink this and you will know whether you really like him from the bottom of your heart. Han Qingxi stared at the jade bottle and said, I won't drink it. I just like brother Lu Chuan and no one can stop me. Zhang Linga frowned and felt that this peach wine was too scary. It could make people so resistant to drinking the antidote, even though Han Qingxi didn't know it was the antidote. At this time, Han Qingxi suddenly flashed to Zhang Linga and reached out to grab the bottle of antidote. Her intuition told her that, as long as she smashed the bottle, her love for Lu Chuan would not be shaken. Han Qingxi now has the strength of the realm of transformation, and his speed is very fast, which scared Zhang Linga. When Zhang Linga saw Han Qingxi coming to grab the antidote, she became anxious. If the antidote was destroyed, she and Han Qingxi would become eternal rivals in love. But Han Qingxi forced her to have no place to hide. In a hurry, she directly picked up the jade bottle and drank the antidote into her mouth. Seeing this, Han Qingxi smiled and said, okay, now that this poisonous drink has been drunk, no one can destroy the relationship between me and brother Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan also showed a trace of helplessness on his face. He didn't expect that the antidote he had finally obtained would be gone just like that. However, what they didn't expect was that in the next second, Zhang Linga directly hugged Han Qingxi and kissed her. After a while, she put all the antidotes into Han Qingxi's mouth. Han Qingxi widened her eyes in disbelief. She wanted to spit out the antidotes, but Zhang Linga didn't give her this opportunity and forced her to swallow all the antidotes. A strange force appeared in Han Qingxi's body. The effect of peach wine was completely resolved. Han Qingxi once again returned to her old cold and serious self. Lu Chuan breathed a sigh of relief, walked up to Han Qingxi, bowed to her, and said, Miss Qingxi, everything that happened in the past was caused by this peach blossom wine. I hope you can treat the past experience as a joke and don't take it to heart. After all, I fed you this peach blossom wine. If you want to blame me, don't be polite to me. However, Han King's eyes were filled with tears. She stared at Lu Chuan infatuatedly and said, "Joke. You and I have been through so much together. Even if there was no effect of peach blossom wine, I can't leave you. Why did you let me drink this antidote?" Chapter 322 Two Women Fighting. Lu Chuan looked at Han Kingxi in disbelief. He had never expected that after the other party lifted the effect of peach blossom wine, he would actually say such a thing. "Miss Kingxi, you." Han Kingxi threw herself into Lu Chuan's arms and hugged him tightly. She returned to her previous appearance, raised her head, and looked at Lu Chuan pitifully, and said, "Brother Lu Chuan, please don't abandon Kingxi. Kingxi wants to be with you forever." Lu Chuan was completely dumbfounded, and even doubted whether Yunji had made a mistake in the antidote she gave him. He looked at the girl in his arms, who had not changed much, and his mind went blank. "Kingxi." Han Kingxi leaned happily in Lu Chuan's arms, and said with a smile, "I still like brother Lu Chuan to call me like this." Adding the word girl seems too distant. At this time, Zhang Ling ran over, forcefully separated the two of them, then looked at Lu Chuan with an inquiring look, and said, "Didn't you say that Kingxi would become normal after drinking the antidote? Then why does she still like you now?" Lu Chuan was also confused and said, "I don't know either." Han Kingxi turned his head to look at Zhang Linger, and said, "Linger, the peach blossom wine in my body has indeed been dissolved, but Lu Chuan and I have been through so many things together. I have already fallen in love with him, and the peach blossom wine just made me more determined. Although we swore before that we would never like men in this life, in the process of being with Lu Chuan, I felt a warmth, responsibility, and the sense of security that he brought me that girls can't give. I know saying this may make you sad, but we really can't go back, and we have officially broken up. I can only let go of Lu Chuan in my heart, so we should not have any contact in the future." Zhang Linger was so anxious that she jumped up and down and said, "I'm not here to get back together with you. You liked Lu Chuan because of peach blossom wine before. Now that you have drunk the antidote, you shouldn't like him anymore, and you shouldn't have any contact with him anymore." Han Kingxi frowned and said, "Why? I have explained that I really like Lu Chuan, and peach blossom wine is just a supporting role." Zhang Linger clenched his fists and shouted, Because I like him too." Han Kingxi widened his eyes, looked at Zhang Linger in disbelief, and said, "Linger, you are not here to make trouble because we broke up, are you?" Zhang Linger said seriously, "Who is making trouble? I really like Lu Chuan too. He gave me an unprecedented feeling, and there is only room for him in my heart." Han King's face immediately became alert, and then he quickly hugged Lu Chuan's arm and said, "Brother Lu Chuan is mine. You can't snatch him from me." Seeing this, Zhang Linger quickly hugged Lu Chuan's other arm and said angrily, "Why? He is mine." Han Kingxi gritted his teeth and said, "We have been through life and death together, and I even slept in the same bed with him, and we are engaged. Why are you snatching him from me?" Zhang Linger was not to be outdone, and said, "You talk as if he and I have never been through life and death together. Even if you two are engaged, so what? Sleeping in the same bed is nothing. He and I have even done that kind of thing. And we did it 3 times. Han King's eyes widened, and he turned to look at Lu Chuan, and said jealously, "Brother Lu Chuan, you and her have done that kind of thing." Lu Chuan's head was as big as a bucket, and he looked at the 2 girls helplessly and said, "You two calm down first." Han King's eyes were suddenly filled with tears. He looked at Lu Chuan aggrievedly and said, "Brother Lu Chuan, I was so proactive before, but you didn't do that kind of thing with me. Instead, you did it with her. Am I not as good as her?" Lu Chuan felt his scalp tingling and explained, "The situation at that time was not as simple as you thought." Han King's tears flowed down all at once. "That means you two really did it." Lu Chuan was speechless for a moment and regretted answering her words. Zhang Linger felt that she had the upper hand and said angrily, "Kingxi, you have already lost to me, so Lu Chuan is mine. You can't snatch it from me." Han Kingxi heard this and was full of dissatisfaction in his heart, and then dragged Lu Chuan towards the room. Seeing this, Lu Chuan hurriedly asked, "Kingxi, what are you going to do?" Han Kingxi said aggrievedly, "You have done that kind of thing with her, you must do it with me too, otherwise it's not fair." Lu Chuan felt a little desperate and said, "Kingxi, Calm down. There is no such thing as fairness. Han Kingsley was in tears and said aggrievedly, so you are willing to do it with her, but not with me? Brother Lu Chuan, I hate you. Then she let go of Lu Chuan's hand, wiped her tears and ran away. Kingsley. Lu Chuan shouted, but Han Kingsley ignored him and ran straight back to his room. Lu Chuan turned his head to look at Zhang Linga and blamed. Why are you saying these things to her? After all, you two have been together in the past. If you keep going like this, you will become enemies. Zhang Linga snorted and said, why, you dare to do it, and don't let people say it? You already know my feelings. Even if I become an enemy with Kingsley, I have decided on you. Lu Chuan sighed. Aunt, don't make trouble for me. Zhang Linga said unconvinced, how am I making trouble? I ask you, if you can only choose one between me and Kingsley, who would you choose? Lu Chuan stretched out his hand and pinched his eyebrows and said, I choose Jingjing. Zhang Linga glared and asked, who is Jingjing? Lu Chuan slapped his forehead hard and said in despair, God, please forgive me. Then he looked at Zhang Linga and said, you two are good sisters, so don't become enemies because of me. You also go back and calm down. I feel that you may just have Stockholm Syndrome. After that, he left the Han family and planned to go back and calm down first. Zhang Linga looked at Lu Chuan's back as he left and murmured, Stockholm Syndrome? Do you think I was hurt by you? Humph, let me tell you, I enjoy it. I just like you, and no one can stop me. In an alley not far from the Han family, a woman with a sexy figure, wearing only a few pieces of private clothes and a hood covering her face, had a light curtain in front of her. Above the light curtain was the scene in the Han family yard. Everything that happened in the yard just now was seen by this woman. Damn Lu Chuan, I didn't expect that after leaving me, your popularity with women would become so good. Two such beautiful girls would fight over you like this. You really made me regret my original choice. But you almost killed me in the wolf's mouth. If the master hadn't passed by and rescued me, I would have become a dry skeleton in the barren mountains now. This time I followed the master to look for clues to the sacred fire and happened to pass by here. Seeing that you were living so freely, to the point where you were fought over by women, how could I bear the desire to take revenge on you? The woman pulled down her hood, revealing a charming and enchanting face. It was Kinlan, who was thrown into the deep mountains and forests by Lu Chuan and left to fend for herself. Chapter 323 Kinlan's experience. Compared with the past, Kinlan has become more charming at this moment, with a more upright figure, whiter skin, and even a more charming appearance than before. There is also more confidence on her face that she never had in the past. The most important thing is that she is no longer an ordinary person, but a practitioner with extraordinary Taoism. Of course, these Taoisms of hers are not obtained by practicing, but by becoming the furnace of other people's double cultivation. At the beginning, Lu Chuan left Kinlan alone in the deep mountains with wolves. Not long after, the wolves found Kinlan by smell and surrounded her. Kinlan was isolated and helpless, with a face full of despair. She climbed up the tree desperately, and her fingers were scratched and bleeding. Unfortunately, she was finally bitten by a wolf on the leg and pulled down. The wolves immediately began to besiege her, biting her all over. Just when she thought she was really going to be eaten by the wolf, a figure fell from the sky, repelled the wolf pack, and saved Kinlan. The man claimed to be the wandering immortal Tu Yaoming, a true master. Tu Yaoming not only saved Kinlan, but also helped her heal her wounds, making all the bite marks on her body disappear, without even a skull left. This made Kinlan really believe that Tu Yaoming was an immortal. However, that night, Tu Yaoming raped Kinlan. Moreover, his methods were extremely brutal and perverted, with many tricks, which made Kinlan almost cry. After the incident, Kinlan was told that her life belonged to Tu Yaoming, and from now on, she was Tu Yaoming's slave, and must obey all orders from Tu Yaoming. Then Tu Yaoming gave her a set of exercises specifically used for dual cultivation, and asked her to comprehend them well. Since that day, Kinlan has become Tu Yaoming's plaything. Normally, Tu Yaoming looked very normal and even had a bit of immortality, but once he started doing that kind of thing, he became like a beast, as perverted as he could be. If Kinlan hadn't bitten the bullet and learned the dual cultivation technique, she would have been tortured to death. At the beginning, Kinlan was still a little desperate, thinking that although she survived, she would not have a good ending in the future after falling into the hands of this pervert. But I don't know if it was because of the technique or her own inner transformation. She slowly accepted her identity as a tool for sexual gratification and even took the initiative to cooperate with Tu Yaoming, trying her best to satisfy his perverted fetishes. Tu Yaoming's perversion was not only reflected in that aspect. In addition to ruthlessly ravaging Kinlan, he also liked to let Kinlan seduce others while he hid in the dark and watched Kinlan have sex with all kinds of people. Over time, Kinlan also liked this state of being available to everyone and became particularly obedient to Tu Yaoming. No matter what kind of perverted task Tu Yaoming gave her, she could complete it excellently. She felt that this was her fate, and instead of complaining, she might as well enjoy it. Anyway, she had become a lowly person who had been humiliated by beggars, tramps, and losers, so why bother about the so-called dignity? As time went on, she became more charming and became a complete container for people to play with, and even her skin and figure became better. In the process of getting along with Tu Yaoming, she also discovered that this person had real magic power, which was far beyond the reach of a warrior. Later, she learned from Tu Yaoming that Tu Yaoming was not a martial artist, but a cultivator who possessed the power that could truly destroy the world and was comparable to that of an immortal. This time, she followed Tu Yaoming to find clues to a so-called divine fire and happened to pass by Jiangbi. She didn't dare to tell Tu Yaoming that her biggest enemy was here, because once Tu Yaoming knew about Lu Chuan's existence, the first thing he would do was to ask her to seduce Lu Chuan, become a Lu Chuan's bitch, and let Lu Chuan ravage her. Fortunately, Tu Yaoming had his own things to do, so she was relatively free during this period. She only needed to help Tu Yaoming vent his lust on time, so she came alone to seek revenge on Lu Chuan. However, after observing just now, she found that, even if she had a Tao, she was no match for Lu Chuan, so she couldn't attack Lu Chuan directly. This damn thing, when he was with me, he acted like a coward, but once he was separated from me, he became so powerful. I have practiced dual cultivation with the master so many times, and have taken essence from more than 100 men. My skills have improved by leaps and bounds, but when facing this guy, I feel a palpitation. I'm afraid that only the master can come in person to slap him to death. I want to confront him head on, and there is only one way to die. But fortunately, I have already mastered some of this guy's information. If I want to seek revenge on him, I don't necessarily have to confront him head on. Using the people around him to deal with him is the best choice. Thinking of this, Kinlan showed a sinister smile on her face, and then quietly sneaked into the Han family mansion. She quietly came behind Mingsu, Han King's personal maid, knocked her unconscious, and hid in a corner. Then she cast a spell, and her appearance began to change rapidly. In the blink of an eye, she had become Mingsu. She raised her lips slightly, and said with a smile, "Miss Han, don't you want to do that kind of thing with Lu Chuan? In this case, let me help you, and make sure you can get Lu Chuan as you wish." In Han King's room, Han Kingsley lay on the pillow and cried for a while, then wiped her tears and stopped crying. She was originally a person with a cold personality, but because she drank peach blossom wine, she became a little nympho in front of Lu Chuan. Now the effect of peach blossom wine has been lifted, and her personality has been restored, but the effect of peach blossom wine has been resolved, which does not mean that her memory has been erased. She and Lu Chuan's experiences are vivid, and she is very sure that she has developed an unforgettable feeling for this man. So she is still willing to be the little nympho in front of Lu Chuan, whose mind is full of only brother Lu Chuan. But she didn't expect that Lu Chuan had already had that kind of relationship with Zhonglinger. As a normal girl, of course she would be jealous. She didn't want Zhonglinger to outdo her, so she was anxious to have a relationship with Lu Chuan. But Lu Chuan's refusal made her extremely sad. In the final analysis, she just wanted to know her position in Lu Chuan's heart. Even without the effect of peach blossom wine, I can no longer leave brother Lu Chuan. He made me really understand what it feels like to like someone, so I must never be outdone by Zhonglinger. But brother Lu Chuan refused to do that kind of thing with me. Is it because my breasts are not as big as Linger's? Thinking of this, she couldn't help sobbing again. At this time, Mingsu pushed the door and walked in, with a playful smile on her face, and said, "Miss, don't worry, I have a way to help you take down that Luchuan, and make him love only you forever in the future." Chapter 324, Witty Han Kingsi. Han Kingsi frowned, stopped crying, wiped his tears, looked at Mingsu, and asked, "What method?" Mingsu smiled and took out a vermilion pill, handed it to Han Kingsi, and said, "This pill was made by a master in our hometown, who specializes in matchmaking. It is called the love pill. As long as you let Luchuan eat this pill and kiss him, he will fall in love with you forever, and will never leave you again. I originally planned to save this pill for my future partner, but seeing that the young lady is so sad, I can only take it out first to help the young lady fulfill her wish." Han Kingsi took the pill, looked at it, turned his eyes, and asked, "As long as brother Luchuan eats this pill, will he love me forever?" Mingsu smiled and said, "Of course, I'm devoted to the young lady, how could I lie to you?" Han Kingsi nodded and said, "Okay, I'll find a chance to let brother Luchuan take this pill, so Linga won't be able to compete with me." Mingsu had a playful look in her eyes, and said with a smile, "Miss will definitely get the one she loves. She got this pill from Tu Yaoming, and it was the best poison pill in the world. Once eaten, the whole body will rot, organs will fail, and eventually die from the pain of corroding bones and piercing the heart. No matter how strong Luchuan is, as long as he eats this pill, he will die. I'm really smart. This girl surnamed Han is like an info. I guess she's only thinking about love and affection. She's easy to fool. This time, relying on her to poison Luchuan, it should be a sure thing." Just as Kinlan was thinking with pride, Han Kingsi said, "Mingsu, my shoulder is a little sore. Come over and give me a massage." Kinlan thought that she had to rely on Han Kingsi to kill Luchuan, so she naturally had to coax her. So she walked over happily and said, "Okay, miss, I'll give you a massage right now." She came behind Han Kingsi, stretched out her hand to pinch Han Kingsi's shoulder, and asked, "Is it here?" But Han Kingsi suddenly turned around, pinched Kinlan's mouth, and quickly stuffed the vermilion pill into her mouth. Kinlan didn't expect Han Kingsi to do this, and the pill was thrown directly into her throat. She didn't have time to react, and swallowed it directly. Her face changed wildly, still playing the role of Mingsu, and asked, "Miss, what are you doing?" But Han Kingsi looked at Kinlan vigilantly, with all the strength in his body, concentrated on his palms, and shouted, "You don't have to pretend with me, you are not Mingsu at all. Mingsu never enters my room without my permission, and she has been helping in the inner courtyard today. It is impossible for her to know about me and brother Luchuan. Who are you?" Kinlan frowned and cursed, "Little bitch, I didn't expect you to be so alert. I thought you were so crazy that you should be easy to fool." Han Kingsi curled his lips and said, "No matter how crazy I am, it's only to brother Luchuan. It doesn't mean that I have lost my brain. If she was drunk with peach blossom wine, she might really be fooled by this guy of unknown origin in front of her, but now she has returned to normal. As a smart Han Kingsi, it is naturally easy for her to see that the Mingsu in front of her is someone else's fake." Kinlan gritted her teeth, quickly took out another pill and swallowed it. It was the antidote for the poison pill just now. After confirming that the poison pill in her body had been solved, she quietly breathed a sigh of relief, and then a hint of viciousness appeared in her eyes. She looked at Han Kingsi and said coldly, "Little bitch, since you are so unruly, then die." Then she slapped Han Kingsi with one palm. Seeing this, Han Kingsi did not show weakness. He used all his strength and stretched out his hand to collide with Kinlan's palm. With a bang, a powerful force exploded, causing both of them to step back a few steps. Kinlan frowned, "I didn't expect you to have such strength." Han Kingsi snorted coldly and shouted, "Since you feel my strength, then quickly show your true face, otherwise don't blame me for being rude to you." Kinlan thought for a while, then directly released a burst of smoke, and turned to flee. She was worried that, if she entangled with Han Kingsi for too long, it would make too much noise and attract the people from the supervision department. Moreover, Han Kingsi was quite powerful, and her main target was Luchuan, so there was no need to take too much risk here. Han Kingsi rushed out of the smoke, chased outside the room, and shouted, "Don't run if you dare." After a long while, after confirming that the guy pretending to be Mingsu had really escaped, she quietly breathed a sigh of relief, then spit out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned extremely pale. The person who pretended to be Mingsu just now was much stronger than her. She relied on the advantages of her innate spiritual body and the powerful skills that Lu Chuan gave her, and used all her strength to barely fight with that person. She wanted to make the other party mistakenly think that she was very powerful and have the idea of escaping, otherwise she would be in danger today. That palm had already seriously injured her. This person is coming for brother Lu Chuan. I have to quickly inform brother Lu Chuan that he is in danger. Han Qingxi dragged his seriously injured body and turned around the house, found Mingzu who had fainted, and woke her up. Mingzu looked puzzled. After seeing Han Qingxi's pale face, she quickly asked, "Miss, what's wrong with you? I feel your breath is so weak." Han Qingxi didn't bother to explain. She endured the pain and said weakly, "Take me to the Martial Arts Association." Jiangbei Martial Arts Association. In the room, Lu Chuan recalled the quarrel between the two girls today and sighed helplessly. He knew that he would face this problem sooner or later after getting so many romantic debts. But he didn't know how to deal with this situation. It seems that being a scumbag is not as easy as imagined. With a little sigh, Lu Chuan put the spoils he got from the Yunji sect on the table, intending to rely on practice to resolve the troubles caused by emotional problems. The Yunji sect has many treasures, enough to make him stronger. His eyes swept over the treasures on the table, and finally his eyes fell on something like a token. What is this? He picked up the token and wanted to study it. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Dang dang dang. Lu Chuan stood up and walked towards the door, muttering to himself, "Who would come to see me so late?" The door opened, and the moonlight poured in. Lu Chuan saw the beautiful figure standing at the door, and was slightly surprised. "Linga? Why are you here?" Zhang Linga looked at Lu Chuan proudly and said, "I miss you. Is that not okay?" Lu Chuan said helplessly, "Linga, I'm not kidding. I really don't think you really like me. It's just because of what happened between us that you have an illusion." Zhang Linga snorted and said, "Are you trying to say that I was hurt by you, so I have an inexplicable feeling for you?" Lu Chuan thought about it and said, "That's about right." Zhang Linga took out a book, handed it to Lu Chuan, and said, "I came to you to explain this to you. This book is based on what happened between us. The heroine's mental journey is my idea. You will know whether I really like you after reading it." Lu Chuan took the book in surprise and said, "You can actually write a book." Zhang Linga was slightly proud and said, "I have many loyal readers, and they can all prove that I like you." Lu Chuan curiously opened the book, and when he saw the title of the chapter called "A Night of Being Harshly Raped by Lu Chuan," his eyes widened instantly. Zhang Linga blushed immediately and said, "Oh, read from the beginning. Don't flip around randomly. I can guarantee that the heroine's thoughts in the book are my thoughts." Lu Chuan quickly glanced at the contents of that chapter and felt that it was a complete pornographic book, but he still pretended to be serious and said, "Okay, I will read it carefully from the beginning." Zhang Linga said shyly, "It's so late today, why don't I stay here for one night?" Lu Chuan thought about it and said, "Okay, I'll ask them to arrange a room for you." Zhang Linga quickly said, "Asshole, don't you understand what I mean?" Lu Chuan said helplessly, "Auntie, don't make trouble for me. If Qingxi finds out, I'll be even more troubled." Zhang Linga snorted in dissatisfaction, turned her big eyes, and said, "Don't you think the moon is beautiful today?" Lu Chuan looked up at the moon in the sky and said, "Yes, the moon is beautiful today. So, it shouldn't be too much for me to ask for a kiss." Zhang Linga said something, and then, without waiting for Lu Chuan to say anything, she stood on tiptoe, hugged his neck, and kissed him. Mingzu came here with Han Qingxi at this time. Han Qingxi thought that Lu Chuan would definitely not sit idly by and watch her injury. At that time, she could take advantage of Lu Chuan's help to heal her and find a way to win Lu Chuan, proving that her position in Lu Chuan's heart was no lower than Zhang Linga. However, the next second, she saw the scene of Lu Chuan and Zhang Linga kissing in the moonlight, and she was stunned. Chapter 325, Communication Token. They look so good together. Han Qingxi was stunned for a long time, and subconsciously covered his chest. The pain in his heart at this moment overshadowed the injuries on his body. Miss Mingsu started. Han Qingxi raised his hand to interrupt her and said, "We are here at the wrong time. Let's go." After that, she turned around resolutely and walked quickly towards the outside of the martial arts association. Mingsu hurried to catch up, looking at Han Qingxi's lonely back, feeling very distressed. When they arrived outside the martial arts association, Han Qingxi stopped and said, "Although I don't want to disturb them, someone wants to harm brother Lu Chuan. I must remind him. Mingsu, please tell brother Lu Chuan for me. Tell him that someone wants to harm him, and let him be more careful." Mingsu nodded, turned around and went to inform Lu Chuan. After a while, Mingsu came back and said, "Miss, I have reminded him." Han Qingxi asked, "Did you tell him that I'm here too?" Mingsu shook her head. "That's good." Han Qingxi hesitated for a moment, and then asked, "When you went, was Linga still with him?" Mingsu glanced at Han Qingxi and said, "When I went there, Miss Linga had already gone into the room, and was lying down." Han Qingxi was stunned, then lowered her head dejectedly and said, "I know, let's go." She took a few steps forward, and tears began to flow down, falling to the ground. Now she can be sure that Lu Chuan likes Zhang Linga. After all, she was so proactive and was rejected, and now he took Zhang Linga back to his room. Maybe he really always thought that my feelings for him were the effect of peach wine, rather than true feelings. In that case, then I wish him and Linga happiness. Thinking of this, Han Qingxi suddenly felt dizzy, fell to the ground and fainted. Miss Mingsu hurried over to help her up, and took a taxi with an anxious face, and took her to the hospital. Martial Arts Association. After Mingsu left, Lu Chuan murmured to himself, "Qingxi sent someone to inform me, so late at night, that someone wanted to harm me. It shouldn't be a prank, right? Anyway, we should be more careful." He turned and entered the room, looked at Zhang Linga who was already lying on his bed, and said unhappily, "Zhang Linga, get off my bed quickly. I have asked them to arrange a room for you. Get out." Zhang Linga looked shameless and said, "We already kissed just now, so what's the harm in sleeping again? Don't be so stingy." Lu Chuan said coldly, "You kissed me forcibly just now, and I didn't react. You should go to the guest room and sleep, otherwise don't blame me for being rude." Zhang Linga covered her head with the quilt and said, "I don't care, I'm going to sleep here." Lu Chuan lifted the quilt without saying a word, then picked up Zhang Linga like a chicken, and brought her out of the door. "Go to bed quickly." Then he slammed the door shut. Zhang Linga's face was full of resentment. After stamping her feet angrily, she snorted and turned to walk towards the guest room. Stingy. After Lu Chuan confirmed that Zhang Linga went to the guest room to sleep obediently, he breathed a sigh of relief, and sat back at the table. He picked up the book that Zhang Linga gave him, and flipped through it carefully. After a while, he stared and said, "Linga's writing is too big, and it's so detailed. Can it really pass the review? But this girl is really good at writing. I'm so excited when I read it." Apart from those explicit descriptions, Lu Chuan did feel Zhang Linga's mental journey in this book. He always thought that he had a relationship with Zhang Linga by mistake, and Zhang Linga would definitely hate him. But what he didn't expect was that Zhang Linga's feelings were very complicated. At the beginning, she really hated Lu Chuan and even thought about killing him. But as they experienced more things together, the girl began to feel the fun and interesting side of Lu Chuan. At the same time, she also felt a sense of security and satisfaction from him that she had never had before. So she gradually developed an interest in Lu Chuan, and her past hatred of men gradually disappeared, and she became annoyed if she didn't see Lu Chuan for a day. The reason why she always looked angry in front of Lu Chuan was because she was too arrogant and couldn't bring herself to show off, and she didn't know how to get along with Lu Chuan. After reading the whole book, Lu Chuan was indeed sure that Zhang Linga liked him, and it was not some Stockholm syndrome. Thinking that Han Qingxi seemed to have a similar mental journey as Zhang Linga, he couldn't help but slap his forehead and sighed, "My damn charm. If the two of them can live in peace, won't I be able to?" He was daydreaming in his mind, and a perverted smile appeared on his face. Then he shook his head vigorously. "Don't think about it. Improving your strength is the most important thing. After I get my revenge, I will find a way to marry all the women I have experienced as my wives." Then he picked up the token at that time and observed it. This token is made of extraordinary materials and is very old. It doesn't look like a modern product. Could it be that it was left by the old ancestor Huangquan? Lu Chuan observed it carefully, then released a spiritual power and injected it into the token. The token suddenly emitted a light blue light, and then a stream of light shot into Lu Chuan's mind. At the same time, in the volcano of the island country, the old ancestor Huangquan, who was sitting cross-legged to practice, suddenly felt a sense of intuition, opened his eyes, and murmured, "Huh." The communication token I left in the Yingui sect was actually activated. Could it be that after so many years, the Yingui sect finally has an orthodox practitioner? Then he immediately sensed the mark he left in the communication token and began to communicate with the person who activated the token. In the room, Lu Chuan only felt a spiritual fluctuation, and then a simple and low voice sounded in his mind. "But my descendant of the Yingui sect activated the token?" Lu Chuan's face changed when he heard this voice. He could tell that this was the voice of the old ancestor Huangquan. Could it be that this is a communication token? Thinking of this, Lu Chuan calmed himself down and transmitted his voice through the token. "I'm Yin Changsheng, the current leader of the Yingui sect. May I know who you are, senior?" There was obviously a bit more excitement in the voice of Huangquan Patriarch. "I'm Huangquan Patriarch, the founder of the Yingui sect." Lu Chuan pretended to be excited and said, "I didn't expect it to be the Grandmaster." Huangquan Patriarch said, "Since you are a descendant of my Yingui sect, I won't be polite to you. Now I'm trapped in a volcano on the island country. You quickly bring people here to listen to my orders. When I successfully escape, you will naturally benefit from it." Lu Chuan rolled his eyes and said, "Grandmaster, it's not that I don't want to listen to your orders. It's just that my Yingui sect is in a huge crisis and was almost destroyed by a guy named Lu Chuan. Now I'm escaping with some treasures left by the sect. I'm powerless to help you, Grandmaster." Huangquan Patriarch was furious. "It's this damn Lu Chuan again." Lu Chuan pretended to be surprised and asked, "Grandmaster, do you know Lu Chuan too?" Patriarch Huangquan snorted coldly and said, "This kid has ruined my good deeds. If I can escape, the first thing I will do is to kill him." Lu Chuan hurriedly said, "Ancestor, since Lu Chuan is our common enemy, I must not let him go, but I'm no match for Lu Chuan now. When I escaped, I took away the treasures in the sect's warehouse. I saw a wooden sculpture that looked like a parrot. It felt quite magical. I wonder if you know the origin of this wooden sculpture and whether it can become a treasure for me to fight against Lu Chuan." Patriarch Huangquan said, "I snatched that wooden sculpture from someone else back then. There is a remnant soul sealed in it. This remnant soul is proficient in a magical power, but this magical power is an auxiliary magical power and cannot be used in combat. How about this? I will teach you some skills and magical powers. You first strengthen yourself. When you are able to resist Lu Chuan and get rid of danger, come to the island country to listen to my orders." Lu Chuan's eyes lit up. He pretended to be Yin Changsheng just to try whether he could find out the origin of the wooden sculpture, but he didn't expect to have an unexpected gain. "Thank you, Ancestor," he said quickly. Then he felt that Huangquan Patriarch had transmitted information about several techniques and magical powers, as well as a lot of cultivation insights, to his mind through the communication token. Those techniques and magical powers belonged to the evil ways, and Lu Chuan was not interested in them, but Huangquan Patriarch's cultivation insights were more valuable to him than the spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. Nowadays, there are few practitioners on earth. Even if Lu Chuan has the memory of inheritance, he has been relying on himself to explore all the way. He can be said to be walking with his eyes blindfolded, and he has no idea when he will go astray. Huangquan Patriarch is a powerful man in the nascent soul stage. His cultivation insights are simply invaluable treasures for Lu Chuan. With these insights as a reference, he will not go astray in the future. This time, pretending to be Yin Changsheng and communicating with Huangquan Patriarch, it was really a big profit. You should strengthen yourself first. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me with the communication token. You are the descendant of my Yingui sect, so I will not treat you unfairly. When you are strong enough, come to the island country to help me out of trouble. Then I will teach you the real way to become an immortal." The voice of the Huangquan Patriarch sounded again. Lu Chuan smiled slightly. "Grandpa, you are so righteous. I'm very grateful to you. Then the communication token returned to calm. Luchuan smiled and said, I didn't expect that I could get some free training experience from Patriarch Huangquan. In this case, I'll keep this token first. If I don't understand something, I can ask him as a senior for advice. When I'm strong enough in the future, I can use this communication token to trick him hard. At this time, the voice of the tower spirit suddenly sounded, don't be happy too quickly. When Patriarch Huangquan passed on the skills to you just now, he also left a mark on your soul. This mark is difficult to detect, and it will slowly erode your soul. You won't feel anything unusual under normal circumstances. Once the erosion reaches a certain extent, Patriarch Huangquan can completely control you through this mark, and make you his running dog. Luchuan's face changed when he heard this, and he said in surprise, Yan Changsheng is a descendant of the Yunji sect. This old thing doesn't even let his own people go? He was just thinking about tricking Patriarch Huangquan, but found out that he had been tricked by him, and he was quite dissatisfied. The tower spirit said calmly, at his level, he only considers himself in everything, and he doesn't care whether you are his own or not. However, the erosion speed of this mark is very slow, and it will take at least a year to control you. He uses this method, probably just to keep a backup, so as to ensure that you can be used by him. Luchuan hurriedly asked, then is there any way to eliminate this mark? He didn't want to leave this time bomb on his soul. The tower spirit replied, there are many ways to resolve it, but judging from your current situation, there is only one way that is feasible. Luchuan asked, what is the way? The tower spirit said, the innate spirit body can naturally resist this mark. If you can get the tears of the innate spirit body owner, it is easy to resolve this mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.